Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough when mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
John Cena did 100 push-ups before going out there last night, right? You can't, no matter what your body looks like, you can't go out there cold, that naked, and not do the push-ups. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Did John Cena do 100 push-ups before going on stage yesterday?
Tricep dips, too. Some crunches.
You would think that there was a lot of exercise. I would think. We will talk some. Annan will be here in a little bit, and David Sampson as well. We are a little bit depleted here. Thank you to everyone who participated last night. It was a lot of fun, and it was really nice to see that we could keep the audience for 7 hours of that nonsense.
You're welcome. Very nice of you.
Thanks to everybody except for Stugotz, who
and Billy.
I watched.
What'd you think? What were your thoughts?
I felt bad for you because for years we heard about your popcorn and how great the popcorn recipe was, and you came in and you seemed very excited. You sauntered in across the red carpet. You presented everybody with your homemade popcorn that has a secret recipe, and the first words that I heard in regards to your popcorn was, "This tastes weird."
Yeah,
and I said that's not good for Dan's confidence.
That was Lucy, who then ate 3 boxes of the popcorn. I noticed. Now she may have done that simply.
Takes some getting used to.
She may have simply been doing that to be, whatever, the student who gives the teacher an apple, because I think she might have been being nice, but she did eat 3 buckets of it.
But Billy, you felt bad for Dan because Dan set the bar very high on the popcorn. There were expectations headed into that,
Yeah, no, and we've heard for a long time, and then he came in, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna
well,
kill."
Unfortunately, we're gonna have to get a group. Jessica's the only one here from last night, and
I was here, Dan. I gave my Terry Rozier analysis after the Heat game.
Well, you showed up, yes, much later.
The audience wanted.
Once the popcorn had gone bad. Once
That's
the
also
popcorn
true.
had been out for 4 hours or 6 hours.
Heard a lot of that needs butter.
Yeah, a lot of people like butter with their popcorn. That's not how.
Who doesn't?
I'm allergic to butter. I can't have it that way. I can't have butter on things.
Okay.
We will get the opinions of the group when the group is here. The group is not here today. So the thing that I wanted to get into from the weekend, though, Stugotz, because at the end of last week, and this is an interesting thing to me, what is happening in the fighting sports where you have the tension of the business of it is the worst. The employees in the fighting sports are disposable, and they are labor that gets exploited by people making money. But we're at an inflection point where many of these people know that they have their own brands, their own power, and that they can exist as their own pay-per-view forces outside of the sport. Floyd Mayweather taught them that. You've heard me say one of the great, whether he can read or not, and I don't know whether he can read the contracts or not because 50 Cent and others have accused him of being illiterate.
Great businessman.
Well, just pioneer. It's beyond great businessman. It's well beyond that.
Right.
It's a decade, 2 decades ahead of everybody on business and on owning all your own stuff. But what ends up happening, and we'll get to Jake Paul and Tyson in a second. You can play that video now of Tyson outside in New York walking with a cane, Stugotz, because Jake Paul is fighting a 57-year-old fighter they told me is going to be an underdog in this fight, and I can't imagine why or how that would be even walking with a cane because Jake Paul has not fought someone who's an actual boxer like this.
But how happy were you when the New York Post aggregated your take while you were wearing a Willy Wonka costume?
A giant victory for me. It's one of my great. It's one of the great happinesses at this point in my career. It's one of the few things that can stir genuine emotion from me.
Every comment was like, "What the hell is this guy wearing? Why does he look like Willy Wonka?"
For me, it's Joe Mauer.
It is wonderful that I would say publicly. It's not just that I'm wearing a costume while being aggregated. It's the specifics of calling him an idiot while I'm dressed that way. And
Like an idiot.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. That's what I was saying. I'm hoping that he responds at some point to the costume and wonders how it is that this idiot, meaning me, can be calling him an idiot.
There is additional pressure after that video came out on Jake Paul. You can't lose to that guy. I mean, you can't lose to a guy limping around with a cane. You can't do it. If I'm Tyson, I keep setting the bar lower and lower. I mean.
If he keeps setting the bar lower and lower, at his age, he won't be able to get under the bar. He won't be able to get up from being under the bar. But before we get to that, because I'm not sure if a UFC fight in America has ever sold a stadium out of that size, Jerry Jones's stadium. I know I could do it in Brazil and Japan and in Spain. Maybe some fights in America can, but I don't know if American fights have had a crowd of the size that Jake Paul and Tyson will do. But the thing that I wanted to talk about from the weekend, Stugotz, and it's a slow sports time, and I feel like it slid under the radar and should not have. And the only reason that it slid under the radar is because Anthony Joshua did to Ngannou what Tyson Fury should have done to Ngannou, knocked him out coldly in the second round because one of them is a professional boxer and the other is not. And Anthony Joshua made it look very easy because Anthony Joshua is one of the greatest fighters in the sport and in the heavyweight division. But to me, the great accomplishment of the last year in sports is Ngannou getting out from under his $600,000 paydays, Stugotz, the last one he got at UFC, getting to real freedom and making in 2 fights a lot more than he ever would have made as the heavyweight champion of MMA. And to me, the big surprise was that he lasted 10 rounds with and knocked down Tyson Fury. I can't believe that that's something I saw happen because Jake Paul is a good boxer for someone who's not an actual boxer. Like, this is the space that he occupies where he impresses people because they're like, oh, he can box a little bit. Yeah, he can box a little bit. And he's going to the guy who was the menace at the height of that division. And even though he's 57 years old, do you remember how he fought?
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, you remember the style of how he fought.
Yes.
He's going to go right at Jake Paul because stamina is going to be an issue at 57. In a boxing ring, I believe those are the longest 3 minutes anybody can experience.
Has to be a quick knockout for Mike.
Yes, it has to be.
You know, Mike Tyson's walking around with a cane now, and I'm just wondering, should we start calling him Michael Caine?
Oh, jeez.
Get out.
Yep.
We're understaffed today.
The laugh. I mean, what happened there?
Out.
By the way, Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders had a match in AT&T Stadium that had 73,000 people at it in 2021. So,
oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean boxing. I meant MMA is what I meant. And Canelo fights in Mexico and elsewhere. When I said Japan and Spain and Brazil, it's because I was talking about I don't know if MMA and I don't know if you can get 70, 80, 90,000 people. How many people does Jerry Jones's stadium hold? Because I don't know. I know what is that, AT&T Stadium? I don't know the names of stadiums and I don't know the sizes of stadiums. I just know that if you're in Texas and you're Jerry Jones, my guess is that you wanted to show everybody how big your ego is.
It holds like over 80,000 people. It's pretty massive.
Yeah, it's like 82,000 people.
Well, no, and then you have like boxing configurations where you have everybody on the floor.
True.
So.
With standing room only, it gets up to 105,000 people if they want it to.
The reason, and of course, I'm inflating the words to try and get aggregated while I'm in a Willy Wonka costume, but the reason that I'm calling Jake Paul an idiot is just because I think he's going to lose the fight. Obviously, as a business move, it's brilliant, and it's not idiotic. It's exactly, Stugotz, his star was dissipating because he wasn't on the rise fighting better and better challengers anymore. He had lost, and this particular thing is just the freak show of go ahead and throw somebody out there who's going to fill a stadium for you. And also, some of the Showtime stuff that he was doing had lost its luster, had it not? Like, hadn't there been claims of like super shitty ratings on the last couple of things that he had done because it was just like he was a YouTube pioneer, and now that has slowed considerably, even though it's still very strong. And the ascent of Jake Paul as a pay-per-view draw was going to head into the toilet, but this rescues it.
Is this going to be his largest viewed thing because of the fact that it's on Netflix?
And it's Tyson.
I think Tyson.
Because the MMA guys, he was fighting washed-up MMA guys who weren't boxers and didn't have any real punching power. There was no real punching power. That he was physically stronger than all of the people he's fighting against, and he's bigger than all of them. And again, no punching power.
It's the right opponent at the right time for Jake Paul, and sadly, and this is a sad state of affairs for boxing, this is the matchup that gets me most excited. This is a matchup that will get me to my TV only to see if Mike Tyson can still do it.
Okay, so forgive me because he cannot, Stugotz. He fought when he's fighting another fighter. He fought old Roy Jones Jr., and that was just sad.
Right.
But this gets me to where it is that I was headed with the conversation, which is I think Stugotz is more like people around this fight than people who love boxing and love MMA. I believe this shift in the sport to the circus freaks, to Conor McGregor fights Floyd Mayweather, and even though it's no good as a boxing spectacle, I think we've crossed over into just be famous.
Yep.
The way to do it in boxing now is either be in boxing or fighting or MMA is be famous, be loud, be someone who gets our attention with things other than boxing. I don't want to be precious about this, but there's a certain contamination to it that has almost next to nothing to do with sport.
No, it has everything to do with seeing an aging Mike Tyson climb back in the ring. Dan, there are no stars in that sport. There are no stars that are going to get me, the fringe boxing fan, to go watch a boxing match.
There are, but
Mike Tyson brings me back to a time. It's not about Jake Paul. It's about Mike Tyson.
No, but but it's also about your general laziness and
well, of course,
and your need for spectacle and this. My
need for star power.
I'm not complaining about this. I'm really not. It may sound like it, but I have embraced the idea that that you should give the customer whatever it is the customer wants. I am, though, pretty amazed that what the customer wants is always now this thing in fighting, that if you are MMA or boxing, you're going to be niche, but you're never going to have one of those spectacle nights unless you do the circus freak act.
But if you're a boxing fan, and you are, Dan, you love boxing, I understand why this would upset you. I know you're saying you're not complaining, but I don't care if boxing fans complain. They have every right to complain. It's a gimmick fight, and I'm interested in it.
I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out to people that it has now happened, and in a way that surprises me, it is no longer about sport in fighting.
It's about entertainment.
It is about business and fame. It's business and fame, and then sport is down the list on whether you're going to have. You have to remember, Stugotz, once upon a time in America, when Ali was king, the heavyweight boxing night was the biggest night in sports. It's been dead for a long time, but now you can't even recreate it unless you make it not about sports and only about the fame.
You're saying it's a cheap ploy for attention in a world craving for some credibility, almost like dressing up as Willy Wonka.
One could
Get
say
aggregated
that.
by a New York Post article.
Dan is a lover of the sweet science, and he's upset. He's not going to say
I'm not
it.
upset.
I mean,
I'm
you're
not
Larry
upset.
Merchant. We all know this.
I'm
You
not-
sound a little upset.
You do sound
But I'm
upset.
not,
You're-
that they're
you're
all
poor
merchants,
sport.
that all of them are merchants now. No, because I will watch this, and I want to see Tyson harm Jake Paul, and I think that he will.
You sound pretty upset, Dan.
Sounds personal
You
at
sound
this
upset.
point.
You sound
Yeah,
broken.
jeez.
I mean,
How is that upset?
Tone.
He didn't say physically harm, maybe like damage his reputation.
Emotionally?
Emotionally, hurt him emotionally. Yes, break him before he ever
that
gets
he's as
into
sad
the
as you
ring.
are about
yes.
this.
But
I'm not sad about it.
If Mike Tyson
Sure.
wins, Dan, that doesn't mean boxing's coming back.
That's correct.
I don't know if you're aware of that. You sound upset by this, and you
okay.
think
You
that you
keep
want him to
accusing
come,
me,
and you
yes.
want him to hurt Jake Paul to restore the glory days of boxing. But
There's a cool
it's
Ali
not gonna
exhibit
happen.
on Miami Beach if you want to go
Yeah.
look at the glory days.
You know what?
Yeah.
Forgive me. I must have communicated this poorly. I have trouble with communication. I don't want Mike Tyson to restore boxing and hurt Jake Paul.
Are you sure?
To signal a victory. Yes, if you let me get through it, I'll explain to you what it is that I meant. I do not want him to restore boxing or hurt Jake Paul to restore the place of boxers in the universe in that time in the 1970s when boxing was king. I want him to hurt Jake Paul because he's Jake Paul.
All right, I'm there with you then.
this potentially is the last great fight, right? I mean, what do you do after Tyson?
Hold on, put a costume and then say that again.
I thought, Stugotz, I know a lot of people are talking today in college basketball about the fight between South Carolina and LSU, but I thought the biggest story of the weekend involving South Carolina women's basketball wasn't that game. It was the one before that where they remained undefeated because, and forgive me, I do not know the name of the woman who had never before made
Camila Cardoso.
a three in a game. And out of nowhere, they leave her open at the end of the game. South Carolina is going to lose for the first time in 2 years in a regular season game. You make the correct play by leaving her open, and she banks in a three. She steps back. She could have tied the game with a two, but she steps back to make her first three, to bank in her first three. And South Carolina ends up remaining the new UConn, Stugotz, because nobody can beat them. But Tennessee had them beaten.
The bank was open, huh?
Newcon.
If you see the clip, you can see Dawn Staley in the background too, telling her like when the last inbound pass is coming in, like if you get the shot, take it. Like basically coaching her, telling her, like giving her some confidence because she's not a perimeter shooter. This is a player who is 6'7", never shoots from outside ever. This is her first three, like you said. So she's completely unguarded there. She's just wide open, and she banks it in and wins the game. And Tennessee players, their coach, like despondent. Kelly Harper, like can't believe what she just saw. It was such a crazy finish, only to be outdone then in the SEC championship game on Sunday with the LSU game.
What she couldn't believe is that she hit a three, right? The Tennessee coach, because that's the play you want. Like, you'll take that shot. That's the shot she wanted in that situation. She was giving her the shots.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
right. And there was a second left on the clock. Like, the fact that she even got it off that quickly, too, everything about it was just unbelievable when you watched it live. It was so crazy.
Oh, but it's not just that, though, right? Because that by itself is ridiculous, right? Because the shot, it felt like it was off the top of the backboard. I don't even know how it banked in. It was a terrible shot, and it banked right in. But the part we're leaving out is that Tennessee was up 73-71 with 3 seconds left and had 2 free throws and missed them both. So they could have gone up 4 and ended the game and ended 2 years of South Carolina winning, Stugotz, without losing, and instead missed 2 free throws and then get your heart broken that way. Remember, you guys made fun of me the last week because something happened in hockey. And I was describing how I felt that feeling before, where you make a couple of mistakes and now you're trailing the play, and the thing that you feared happening most, you've already imagined worst case scenario fears because you're the one responsible for it, and then you watch it happen. if you've missed those two free throws and now you're getting back on defense and committing the foul, all of that is happening in slow motion.
Yes.
They're inbounding the ball. Like, you're watching and you're like, I know I missed those two free throws. I could have ended this game with those two free throws, and the rest of what you're watching is you can't sleep for 3 days after that.
And as a Tennessee fan too, like, you've seen this game before. Like, the Tennessee is a really good team, but they have these games when they're playing teams ranked ahead of them where they're so close but they can't close it out. And like, this was a game where they had them the entire game, and South Carolina only needed a 2 to take it to overtime, and somehow they get the 3-point shot and score and end up in the championship game again. It was just like absolutely crazy. This weekend was one of the best women's basketball weekends of probably the entire year so far. The 4 conference championship games and like the power conferences yesterday, starting with the Iowa-Nebraska game going to overtime. Notre Dame won the ACC, then the South Carolina LSU game, and then USC-Stanford, all back-to-back-to-back, kind of overlapping, which was a bummer. I wish they had like spaced them out better, but absolutely incredible day of basketball.
Was there anything good or interesting in the commentary beyond South Carolina and LSU really don't like each other? South Carolina is better than LSU, and
Well, they're better than everyone.
yeah, but LSU. Well, but I mean, LSU's.
They're very
LSU
good.
won the national
Yes,
championship.
I know. I'm
it's-
aware.
So okay, but like, so they might be better than everybody, but LSU is right there with them. And was there anything interesting in the commentary that you heard about the fight? Because tensions escalating to a place where these two teams obviously don't like each other because they're competing for the top of the sport and have been for a couple of years. Any good commentary?
Well, I mean, I thought what was interesting from my perspective was with the last time these teams played, it was actually that game that we were talking about, rated higher than I think it was the Celtics Heat game, that Thursday night game. The game really swung in like the last couple minutes. So what I was looking forward to at the end of this game was there's 2 minutes left. LSU had been trailing most of the game. South Carolina kept making shots to keep a lead ahead of them, but with 2 minutes left, I was like, okay, is this game going to have a similar kind of swing where LSU now gets back in it and can somehow win it? But then this happens. So basically, a LSU player committed an intentional foul on a South Carolina player, and then there was a bit of like, I don't even know if you can call it a fight. Like, no one threw any punches. It was more of a skirmish, a scuffle, if you will. But then
An NBA fight.
Camila Cardoso, who's a player, the one who's 6'7", with she's, I don't know if you can see her on the video, but anyway, she comes in right there, pushes the LSU player who fouled her teammate, and then everyone gets up off the benches except for one USC player. And if you clear the bench area, it's an automatic ejection. Plus, Camila Cardoso got ejected for fighting, so now she's going to miss the first game of the NCAA tournament, which will be USC will be a 1 seed, so they're going to play a 16. So probably won't impact them too much. But initially, the broadcast team said that all of the players who got ejected, which was both benches plus Camila Cardoso, would be out for the first game of the NCAA tournament. And that would have been insane because only 5 players were left on each team, although South Carolina had like 1 player who didn't get off the bench area. So
We're going to need to
a
identify,
sub.
though, exactly what this fight was and how to describe it, because we have an escalating
Brouhaha?
list of tensions. We'll get
Ballyhoo?
you. We're going to get you guys the escalating list of tensions. We have an official list that has been created, so you guys choose.
I have it here. There's a lot. on
Yeah,
it.
I know, but
Yeah.
choose. And are you going top to bottom, bottom to top? What are you doing here?
Okay, so this is the least chicanery.
Okay, so go.
I would say it's more than
well, but hold
chicanery.
on.
Would you
let
say
him-
it's hijinks?
Let him get through.
I'd say there were hijinks throughout the game and escalated into
Malarkey?
whatever this is.
Okay, I don't want commentary off of each one because there are many of them.
Well,
so
we're trying
just,
to figure out.
Just read the list and we'll
just
pick
go
one.
ahead.
Talking it
Just, I
out.
don't need commentary on each one. I know there are hundreds
I feel like
of them.
the process is important.
Yeah.
Okay, but you just tell
Right.
us when
was
we're
it
in the area.
Was it closer to skullduggery or shenanigans?
I'd say it's more than just shenanigans.
It was larger than a tiff, a spat, or a quarrel, though, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Worse than tomfoolery.
Yeah.
We mentioned skirmish, but did it escalate to a fracas?
I feel like it's in that region.
Really?
That feels
Less than hullabaloo? Or ballyhoo?
It's in that region.
Was it quite at the level of a dust-up?
Yeah, I would
does
say
though.
it's about there. I mean,
Well, we have to get to you
it was
saying
just
no, though.
a big shove, and then
less than Armageddon.
the LSU player who got
yeah,
shoved, according to the broadcast, her brother jumped onto the court, so that led to an even further
Agree to disagree?
escalation.
Did the gloves come off? Were there fisticuffs?
No, we're definitely
fisticuffs.
no
We weren't
fisticuffs.
at
Gloves
No?
did not come off.
So we didn't get to kerfuffle
Not a kerfuffle.
Okay.
or hubbub. No hurly-burly. Wasn't a
think-
I
slobber
don't know if I
knocker.
agree with
think it
this
was a hubbub.
ranking.
Really?
What?
I think
What?
skirmish.
Did
What
we
do you
reach
mean?
Donnybrook?
What do you mean? It's the list. We generally do not do very much with the Oscars, largely skip right past all of the award shows, but Adnan Virk and David Sampson did something giant with the Oscars last night. It was a lot of fun. Our audience really enjoyed it. They really enjoyed it. The least enjoyable part of it was David Sampson getting more of his picks right than anybody he was competing against, and only
Jesus.
49 people on all of the internet did better than him. But, well, we'll talk to David about that in a second. But, Adnan, if you have to choose from the following, Al Pacino apparently screwing everything up at the end of the night, the Il Memoriam video tribute at the end using the Step Brothers music from the Catalina wine mixer. Ryan Gosling as Ken or John Cena. Like, what was the single? You can only pick one thing. The standout thing from last night is blank.
You're saying in a positive sense or negative sense?
Anything.
Since you're going negative. Okay,
Anything.
well, I'm going to say positive then. I'm going to stay with Nicolas Cage when he went out there. My favorite moment was when previous award winners were honoring nominees. And Nick Cage, we all know, is about as wacky as it gets. I'm sure our audience loves Nick Cage. And he spoke to one of my favorite actors, in Paul Giamatti. He said, Paul, in The Holdovers, you wore a soft contact lens, which made you blind in one eye. Would I have done so? Hell yes. And a whole ovation started going nuts. And he said, but great job by you and killer job as always. I also liked when Tim Robbins went out, was addressing Robert De Niro. He mistakenly said, in your Academy Award-winning performance in Killers of the Flower Moon, crowd started laughing. He goes, I mean, Academy Award nominated. You should win this, though. So I just love that concept of bringing back previous award winners to be there. As for my man Pitino, who I adore, you're supposed to say, and the nominees are, and they have the nice little crawl of the nominees, but who cares? We all knew it was going to be Oppenheimer anyways, so Al just skipped to that, goes, opens the envelope, goes, yeah, Oppenheimer. So I give Pacino credit. He wanted to get Abbott Elementary on the air on time, and we just cut through the fluff. Way to go, Al.
He didn't say the winner is Oppenheimer. He said, I see Oppenheimer.
Right.
And then everyone was like, there was like a pause before applause because no one knew what it meant.
Hooah!
I think Adnan's bearing the lead. I think what bothered him the most was being here 7 hours, and then at the end, he lost to me. I think that is the true takeaway from last night.
I'll say this. Nobody rides a line between loathsome and hateful like David Sampson. I mean, it is.
You're right.
It is remarkable,
Yes.
Stu, the way he can do it.
I mean,
But
it seemed like the same thing. That doesn't seem
Not
like
sure
a
what
line.
a line that is.
But I have to give credit where credit is due. My man ran a half marathon yesterday.
It's amazing.
And then was able to finish first in the pool. He was ahead of me. He was ahead of Ben Lyons, who pitched this entire idea. So Ben now has me with egg on my face. But I think ultimately, I give credit to David on this. When everybody else is zigging, you got to zag. And we both lost in Beth's live action short film because we went a best animated short film. We both went Letter to a Pig. And David looked at me and goes, Holocaust film. I go, exactly. But he picked it on sound, which was an inspired choice. He went Zone of Interest, whereas all the rest of us went Oppenheimer. And he also should have used the same logic, which is Holocaust film. So I give him credit because that was a pretty good call by him and a gutsy pick.
David, did Pacino air in? I mean, that's a very dramatic moment. Everybody's waiting around.
Oh, who cares?
Exactly,
I mean,
Stu's
seriously.
right.
I mean, the winner is. That's the way we have to
No,
do it.
no,
Everyone
the
knew-
nominees are.
The
The
Oscar
nominees
goes
are. Who
to-
cares? Everyone knew who was winning the award at that
Correct.
point.
Way to go,
You
Stu.
give the moment to the nominee.
Yeah,
It's Al's
important-
moment.
The important thing is for the other 9 shows to get one more mention.
Right.
So Ben Lyons pointed this out during the show that you were watching last night, Stu, during your travels, I'm positive.
Yep,
'Cause
great
we
show.
We saw the number of people watching, and it kept going +1, which I think was
You're
you.
welcome. Yes.
Thank you. It was critical. Speaking to all our guys out there, like, we got Stu, baby. And so there's not enough talk of past lives, not enough talk of some of the other nominees, and you want to give them that moment in the sun for being a Best Picture nomination. And Al Pacino just blew it. The problem is you keep sending octogenarians out there. That's what you're going to get.
If you say so.
I had a moment last night where I fully realized that like I'm starting to become washed up, and it was when the Oscars wrapped and they had that like, cut to the clip of Messi the dog peeing on Matt Damon's Hollywood star, and I was like, wow, I just found this Jimmy Kimmel Matt Damon beef thing funny. Holy shit. I am officially entering my 30s.
Jessica feeling old is something that I was not, I didn't have it on the bingo card, but there are any number of things around here all the time that are making us feel old, and I want to do a daily segment that recognizes this. Let's begin with whatever you've got today, Jeremy, to make us all feel old.
So outside of Jackson Holiday, Matt Holiday's son being like the best player in spring training, not named Juan Soto, and his other son being a number 1 overall prospect as well, I bring you news that class of 2025 wide receiver Eugene Hilton Jr. is down to 7 schools. Yep, that's the son of T.Y. Hilton.
He played like 2 years ago.
T.Y. Hilton's kid getting ready to go to college. We're so old, Dad.
We can do this every day. We're going to do it every day.
Did you know that Charles Johnson's son has been a professional football player for multiple years?
What? CJ.
Yes.
CJ, did you know CJ's
No, I had
son?
no idea.
He's played for the Broncos for 2 years. I grew up on the same street. I lived on the same street in Plantation as Charles Johnson. And it was the most awkward part of my career is the day we traded Charles Johnson and I saw him on the street, which was horrible. And he had little boys. And it blew my mind. I didn't realize, because I don't live on the street anymore.
But you're old and Charles Johnson is old. T.Y. Hilton and Jessica are not old.
Oh,
Well, Jess is kind of old.
Getting there.
I mean, she's
Jobs aged me.
getting into her 30s. It's not young.
She
T.Y.
goes,
Hilton,
she goes to bed at 9. I mean,
Yeah,
T.Y. Hilton
Columbo.
also ended up at FIU because his son, like, he put his West Virginia hat and an FIU hat, and his son crawled to the FIU hat, and that's how he chose FIU over West Virginia.
Really?
And now his son didn't choose
Would you
FIU.
trust
Yeah,
your
FIU
kids
is not
with
there.
doing that?
Oh, I don't trust my kids with anything. My kids are idiots.
T.Y. Hilton played for the Cowboys in 2022. I mean,
David, what do you make of Elon Musk saying on...
Listen, let's get back to Oppenheimer. Come
How
on.
does he know your kids are idiots this early?
Well, I mean,
Are they testing badly, like in the school
no,
tests?
I mean, a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old are not.
When you
Your
know, you know,
8-month-old's
dude.
an idiot?
Well, compared to me.
He's just adventurous.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are all 2-month-olds and 8-month-olds idiots? What do you make, David, of Elon Musk saying, because I didn't think that this was pervasive last night, but maybe I have it wrong. Winning an Oscar now just means you won the woke contest.
No, winning an Oscar means that your rate has increased when you do your next project.
But what's
It is
happening there?
very good
but
for
what's
business.
what's
Listen,
happening there?
That Hollywood is liberal, that's huge news. That hadn't happened. That is all because of Trump. It's only the last 4 years that Hollywood's been liberal. So I totally understand that comment. It's absurd.
What
Adnan, how
happened?
long
What
has it been-
happened last night that wins the woke Olympics?
Jonathan Glazer won the Oscar for Best International Feature Film for The Zone of Interest, and in his speech, he mentioned the occupation in Gaza. So if you want to see talk politics, he said, my film is about genocide. There's also cruelty taking place right now in the world. We hope for a ceasefire. And 20 Days of Mariupol won, which is a film about what's happening in Ukraine. And the winner said, I would take back this award for, all the lives that have been lost in Ukraine. So maybe Elon Musk doesn't
But would he?
Yeah, that's...
You're questioning that?
I don't think he would. It's
David.
big. It is so big to win that category.
What are you
Oh,
talking
we're talking
about?
about the pain
What
and
are you
suffering
doing?
of people
What
killed
are
in
you
Ukraine.
doing? Go sit in the penalty
questioning the
box.
sincerity of
Go
that.
sit in the penalty box. Go sit out there. He's tired. He's punch drunk, man. He's been working a lot. He's running.
What an excuse.
I mean, just get out of here. Just go out.
What's
Go
his
sit.
excuse the rest of the time?
Go sit in the penalty box. What Jessica said while I was asking them that question was, I should win the woke Olympics because I was up until the end of that
I
night
stayed
last
awake, but
night.
also shout out to the Oscars. Early start time, early finish time. What a choice. Best thing they've done in years. Wrapping it up before 10:30 Eastern on the day of daylight saving, spring forward.
Big time.
Everyone was tired. I didn't know what time it was. My dog didn't know what time it was. I woke up this morning and it was dark out and I wanted to puke. Thank you to the Oscars for
They
ending
were
early.
rushing through it, Adnan. They didn't need to rush. I mean, they go too slow sometimes, but they were in a big rush at the end, and that's when the payoffs are.
Yeah, it's normally about a 3.5-hour show. So to Jess's point, historically for years, it's always started at 8 o'clock Eastern. They move it up an hour to 7, thinking it'll end by 10:30. So by that logic, they did get out early. They were done by 10:22. And they didn't need to play the music off now for a costume designer and production designer. Now they look back, they had more time. And again, if Al had just said, here's the nominees, we would have had a little bit more time. But again, if you want Oscar moments, if you love movies, I think you still appreciate what happened. And again, Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan is that rare filmmaker. A really cool moment when Spielberg presented Best Director to him. Christopher Nolan's like today's Spielberg, a guy that makes movies that make a ton of money, but it's also loved by the critics. So it was a pretty cool moment if you like Christopher Nolan, and that gives me an excuse to get Jess to do Bane.
What do you mean? I am Bane. Women's basketball in the A block. What a choice. Who would have thought the women's game would get more attention than the men's?
What a time.
I'm now quoting John Reed in a production meeting.
Billy had mentioned that there was something about International Women's Day that was bothering him, and I wanted to see it.
That is
that's
exactly
that is what you said. That is what you said. That's what you said.
I was there.
That's what you said. We were all there. We went. That's how that went. That's how that went.
No.
He's right.
Well, explain yourself.
Falsehoods.
Let's hear it, Bill.
Okay, well, then explain yourself. Explain what your complaint was about International Women's Day. And let me just show the audience this, first of all, because, guys, get for me, please, the video of LeBron James this weekend that everyone was delighting over because Kurt Ramos's wife, I believe her name is Linda, and Jeannie Buss were pawing at LeBron James in a way that made me think everybody had been drinking. I thought everybody had been, I don't know what time of day it was.
A lot of touching of biceps.
Yeah, there's a lot of touching, and LeBron James, their lip readers have now gathered and realized that the way that he won this moment is by just saying, first of all, Happy International Women's Day. And just look at this. What he gets after that is just coquettish snuggling from all the parties involved. Billy, what was your objection to International Women's Day?
I have no objection
That's not
to
true.
International Women's
Billy?
Day. That's not
Billy,
what
say
happened.
it.
Billy, you had an objection.
This video played.
Tell the truth.
This video played, and what I said was, on that day, I went to Farm Stores, which is like a local, little drive-up convenience store where they overcharge you for everything. And I went and I bought a pizza next door, and I wanted to have soda with the pizza, so I asked for a soda, which for a 2-liter soda there was like $4, which is like ridiculous because it's a drive-up convenience store. And then they asked me on the way out, would you like to buy an orchid for International Women's Day for $13? And I said, no. I would not. I would like a soda, and that's it. This isn't like $1 for charity. You're now asking me for $13 extra for an orchid I didn't ask for. And that's all I said about International Women's Day. That was it. That was my entire
You said
comment.
women were gouging you.
I didn't say that.
They're always out for your money.
Pawing at you. Yeah.
The store was trying to gouge you. It was an upsell.
I didn't say any of those things. I did say, though, that this is an international holiday, and I asked Jeremy when this dated back to because I wasn't familiar with the origins of this holiday. But I said it was incredible that there's no world peace, but every nation in the world celebrates International Women's Day. That's what I said. Do you not think it's
I think he cleaned it up. I think that's fair.
Why are we giving women just a day? I mean, seriously, they deserve a month. They deserve a year. Why are we just giving them a day?
Way to go. Way to go, Stu. Way to go, Stu. Save the whales. Pay the teachers.
Please.
Support the troops.
I mean, save the whales.
You're a simp.
Everybody's terrified to compare him to Tom Brady. Folks, young Mac Jones looks like young Tom Brady. You need to just put your arms around it because that's exactly what it looks like.
I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the present and the future. And his name is Mac Jones.
Mac Jones got written off. He is a Pro Bowl quarterback. He may be the best quarterback in the division.
He was threading the needle. He's throwing like lob passes. He's hitting guys in double coverage. It really felt like early 2000s Pats.
I love Mac Jones. I think he's a heck of a competitor. Gets the ball out on time, does the small things right. I think they are missing a few more pieces on the offensive side of the ball. Once they add those, valuable pieces around him, I think Mac Jones, he can be successful as any quarterback in this league.
If I had to draft a quarterback in the AFC East right now, the way Josh Allen, who I love, the way he's going, he doesn't protect the football. Aaron Rodgers is 102, is injury prone. Mac's a Pro Bowler.
If I'm the Jets, I own the Jets. If I don't land Aaron, I would absolutely call New England and say, we'll take Mac. Am I nuts?
The backup quarterback career of Mac Jones started this weekend.
Congratulations to him.
Yes.
I mean, greatest job in sports. He should embrace that thing, man.
That is right. Traded to Jacksonville for a late-round pick.
Also, Kenny Pickett's began this morning.
Wow.
Well, I'm not sure about that because of this. Because Russell Wilson is on a one-year prove-it deal, and the job might be Kenny Pickett's again in a year because
if he doesn't prove it,
if he does or he doesn't, because he's only there for 1 year and he's there cheap, at least in part because he's here to prove to everybody that he still deserves one of those big contracts.
No, he's only there cheap because Denver's paying his salary.
Right.
I know.
He's getting the big contract.
I know,
but you're right.
But
Ted,
he's there cheap for Pittsburgh,
Right.
and he's playing in Pittsburgh. And that part's smart on all parties involved. Like, to me, that is a no-lose proposition because can you be better than Mason Rudolph? And he's cheaper probably than Mason Rudolph.
I would say Russell has a lot to lose, also a lot to gain. This is a big moment and a big season coming up for Russell because he was in the Hall of Fame. He played his way out of the Hall of Fame in Denver, and now he has an opportunity to play his way back into the Hall of Fame with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, or Dan, he could solidify that he'll never make it to Canton if he is the quarterback for Mike Tomlin's first losing season. I mean, it's a crossroads.
Well, if I know the Steelers, to go backtrack, it was, the Kenny Pickett backup thing was a joke because if I know the Steelers, they are going to have a quarterback competition, and maybe they will have carry more weight to Russell Wilson given his age and experience than Kenny Pickett given his lack of experience and injury history, but they will act like it's a competition, whether it really is or it isn't.
I don't think when he signed that he was told anything other than he's the number one.
Right.
I don't think he goes there without the job.
Agreed.
That's why they will say it's a competition.
They're just going to pretend.
If I know the Steelers, they're going to say it's a competition.
I think the biggest risk is he doesn't play. I think Pickens plays this year because I don't see Russell Wilson playing 17 games.
Pickens better play.
Pickens is going to play. Pickett is the. But I do think that they announced that he's not good enough. We all saw that last year. But I think almost everyone listening to this by consensus, and this is rare in sports, would just look at that overall deal and say, yep, good for everybody.
Yes.
Believe that is a positive thing that can work out for everybody and make everyone a little bit better. But that's how unimpressive Pickett was as the starter on that team, never throwing the ball downfield, never using Pickens correctly because he's look, Russell Wilson could still throw the deep ball. Don't tell me he can't do that because he can do that. And we've all seen him do that. We haven't seen Kenny Pickett do it.
They also had a offensive coordinator who was fired midway through the season last year, and it coincided with Pickett getting his ankle fractured. So he didn't really even get to play under a non-Matt Canada offensive coordinator. So, and then, of course, when they got into the playoffs, they kept going with Rudolph because he was the hot hand.
And he played well.
And he did play well,
yeah.
But they hired a new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who's got a lot of experience running good offenses, even though might not have been the best head coach in Atlanta. So I think it's interesting.
You were very gentle there with Arthur. You were might not have been the best.
He wasn't. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a good head coach, but he was a good offensive coordinator before that. And I think it's a low risk. It's a low risk for the Steelers to sign Russell Wilson, have Denver cover the $38 million, however much it is.
There's only upside. Yeah, there's only upside.
Exactly.
Pay the minimum.
We're doing a weird thing with Russell, though, where he had 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions last year. 26 touchdowns is 2 less than Tua. I mean,
fewer.
He didn't have a bad year. And people think that he's washed up.
The people who are analyzing that sport most closely are telling you that those numbers are a bit of a mirage because those are the ones you keep pointing to,
right.
And they're the only ones you keep pointing to.
That's all I got.
And if I give any starting quarterback in this league that kind of reps, that the way they play the sport now, you're going to come pretty close to getting that if I give you 16 or 17 games worth of reps. It's just you can't play in this league unless you're doing that at this point.
He had more touchdown passes last season, Russell Wilson did, than the Steelers have had over the last 2 years. As a team.
Yes, and you are correct that the Steeler offense have been bad, and most people are looking at some of what it is statistically that Russell Wilson has done and said, that's not that bad. but the people who are actually studying play-by-play stuff, the people who are scouting whether the DBs are doing the job.
Not just winging it.
They're not just, hey, I'm looking at these two numbers. The people who look at
I love to wing it,
slightly more than those two numbers are saying he was not anything other than mediocre last year. But something I wanted to ask David that sort of, I'm not going to say it's skated underneath the radar, but I don't know that it can be given enough attention given where we are and where the money is in sports. Rudy Gobert was just fined $100,000. It's a stiff fine for words said and actions that aren't violent or physical. And he made a money sign at a referee, and then after the game said that sports betting is influencing the results of games. I think it's the worst accusation a commissioner can hear in his office coming from a player. Like
no doubt.
verbal said, there are things, there are crimes that can be committed. But if you ask me, what if I'm a commissioner, what's at the top of my list of I'm going to punish this the hardest? It's what Rudy Gobert just did.
I feel so happy right now. I'm going to cry. I'm
$5.
I have it. You watched Nothing Personal this morning.
I did not.
Oh, so you don't know that Adam Silver is wired like in Saving Silverman when Jason Biggs went to dinner. And anytime there's competitive integrity that's on the line, anytime a player says anything about gambling or impugns the integrity of any referee, it buzzes, and he immediately fines the player. That's where we are with the gambling relationship. It's the number one issue the commissioners have. The amount of investigation done into the Rudy Gobert, it took 5 minutes. It happened, they announced the fine. And this is because it was gambling related. When there's fights, they look at video, they look at all angles, they'll wait 2 days when there's something going on off the court. But when it's gambling, it's immediate. And what Gobert did, you just can't have it. You can't have people thinking the referees are fixing games.
I can't believe he did it. No matter what his complaints are, I can't believe that he's making the next step. You get fined a certain amount for simply questioning the officiating. That you can do, you're going to get fined. But this is an extraordinary fine. This is an amount of money that's unusual, and it's because of the specifics of the accusation. He's saying that those refs in that game were impacted by gambling. You cannot say that.
That's the third rail. But also Rudy Gobert, this has happened to him before. So the other thing NBA said is, hey, we've had to fine him so many times for questioning the officials. That's another reason we're doing it.
You're surprised that Rudy Gobert did something stupid publicly? Rudy Gobert? Are we talking about the same guy?
But he can't say it if he indeed feels it. If he actually feels that way, he can't lend a voice to it?
No.
What?
Not without consequences.
I mean, okay,
you
so he
keep it
pays
to yourself.
Well, he's got a big fine he's got to pay.
There's also a way to express your dismay with the referees without money signs and
Accusing them of a
explicitly
crime?
saying it.
The
Like, that's
words,
a whole other
the words
thing.
is really what got him in trouble. Because the sign, you could kind of like, oh no, I was doing this,
Johnny
that, or
Manziel
whatever. You can
fan.
kind of,
I don't
yeah,
know,
you
man.
This
Pointed
sign
at the
is
referee to
pretty
do it.
Obvious.
$100,000 though. The words is what buried him. I think when you're like, yeah, the game's fixed.
I thought it was his history is what
Well,
the
that's what you
amount
say.
was. but
Speaking
the
of which,
speed.
is it the 4-year anniversary yet of Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, it passed this weekend.
Oh man.
March 11th, I believe,
Yep.
4 years ago, is the day that Rudy Gobert he licked the microphone.
He touched
He
them
touched
all.
all of
the
them, and then the
microphones.
next
Yeah.
day
To his
we found out he had
face,
COVID.
And then he
Okay.
gave us all COVID.
You had him licking them.
I thought
Hey, he
licked
started
it.
the pandemic.
Stugotz.
David thought he was like tongue kissing all the media members. No, David.
No, the microphones, not the media.
I was
members.
just escalating your
Oh, okay.
incorrect comment.
Russ had more touchdown passes than Lamar Jackson. Won the MVP.
Steelers Super Bowl.
Will you
Let's deal.
will you defend everything?
We're going with let's smelt Billy.
Well, what do you mean?
A player
Yes.
has committed the act of accusing the referees of a crime
Right.
that impugn the integrity of the results because he is saying that gamblers are the reason that the Timberwolves lost because they have bribed officials. How are you shrugging your shoulders at that?
I'm not shrugging my shoulders. I'm saying if that's the way he feels, why not put a voice to it?
Okay, Stugotz, yes. Does he have
Then
freedom?
$100,000 fine to him is like a $10 fine to me. It's like, All right, he'll eat the $100,000, but he wanted to put his voice on something that he clearly feels passionate about. I mean, and who's to say it's not? I'm just saying. Like, that's been going on in the NBA for years, since David Stern, where people felt like these series were predetermined. I mean, it has. That conversation's been going on forever.
That's Jorge Sedano on local radio saying it, is not one of your employees saying it when you're the commissioner of the league. I just don't know. I honestly, I know that people are talking about you don't have the freedom to express your opinions these days, but as far as verbal sports crimes go, like I don't know what I'd put close to this.
You don't have the right to express that as a player in a league. You don't.
Well, you do, but you get fined for it.
Well, there's a consequence.
Right.
Was it a close game?
Yeah. It was. They were leading by 1, and then they lost the game. Can you guys just look up for me? I'd like in the next segment to do a few
Verbal
precedents
sports crimes?
with fines. I want to know how many people have been fined $100,000 for something like this. Stugotz, the broadcaster and former safety, I believe he was a safety, Solomon Wilcots. Is his last name spelled Wilcox or Cots? How do you pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Wilcots or Wilcox?
Wilcots. I think it's Cotts.
I think it's one T, but I do think it's a T and not an X. The reason that I bring it up is only because of this. I was driving and I heard him on Sirius XM, and like a lot of people in the media, they disappear from the mainstream, and I don't notice that they've disappeared from the mainstream, and then they pop up somewhere, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. That person used to be at ESPN or Fox or whatever. And it got me to thinking about just how interchangeable all of the pieces in broadcasting are, except for like 5 of them. Almost all of them across broadcasting in the realm of what Solomon Wilcots does, right? Because as we speak right now, I love Ryan Clark's work. He works hard. He was interning at ESPN when he was still a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I don't know as we talk right now, and I would think of Ryan Clark as one of the bigger stars that ESPN has. But
Sure.
he had a contract dispute with ESPN, and I, who am in the industry right now as we speak, don't know if Ryan Clark is or isn't at ESPN because he had the public contract dispute, and I think he might have actually gone back to ESPN after saying that his contract had lapsed at ESPN. But my overall point is, even if you're Ryan Clark, that all of the pieces, except for just a few, are almost entirely interchangeable.
His contract expired with ESPN, and he was very public about it. And then he got it on social media, and then he got a contract done with ESPN. ESPN thinks he's a big star, and he is a big star. He's great at what he does. Would I still watch ESPN as much as I do if Ryan Clark wasn't there? Probably.
But who is that not true of is what I'm asking you. And I'm not doing it for just ESPN. I'm doing it across the sports media landscape. Your analysts, your sports analysts, are they all interchangeable except for like a handful? Because I'm having a hard time thinking of anybody who can leave just about anywhere and actually do damage to a major mainstream platform more than is presently being done by the current crumbling of all media.
Well, remember, people get paid in a way that makes you feel that they can't be changed out. The way CBS paid Romo, the way they then got Buck and Aikman, and all of a sudden all of the play-by-play and analyst money went all the way up. But if you're asking that specific question, who's the handful you're thinking of? Because I can't think of one where
Dan Le Batard, Stugotz.
Thank you.
So I can't
Philly.
think of one where you would say, oh, I would
Chris?
not watch this game or I would not watch this network. Is there – you said there's a handful. Were you thinking Le Batard McAfee type, or were you thinking
I'm thinking
Romo
no,
Aikman?
I was thinking of what Stephen A. Smith is doing to Skip Bayless in the ratings. They started at the same salary. They both make $8 million a year. One of them is now having his career ended, while the other one's about to get the biggest contract in sports, because that's what he is, the biggest contract in sports broadcasting, because he's that valuable. It's the amount of money that he makes for ESPN.
But I love that show, and I love Stephen A. Smith. But if you took Stephen A. off the show, like I don't watch the show that much. So
All right, but
I'd still be consuming
Stugotz,
ESPN is my point.
Stugotz, Shannon Sharp is one of those people, obviously.
Right.
Like he just ended one kind of show where they have someone making the $8 million, went to the other show where they have someone making $8 million, and the other show is now got 8 and 9 and 10 times the rating.
My point is, I could live without those guys. I love to watch them. I think they're great. They're a luxury. You take the games away, then I'm not watching ESPN. The games are what's important to me.
All right, so you can say that everyone in broadcasting is disposable and interchangeable, and I would not disagree with you. But if that's the case, then why pay anyone more than the minimum? If what you're saying is true, why pay anyone millions in broadcasting?
This is a terrible line to be going down. I don't like this at all.
Me either.
Let's stop this immediately.
Irreplaceable.
David, what are you doing? Stop him.
I tried to kick him under the table, but my legs are
Stop
slightly
this
too
immediately.
short. I think what Dan needs to be doing is focusing on how important it is to have people who do move the marker. That is what every network is looking for. Who actually makes a difference? Who is a channel stopper, not a channel changer? And that is what you're doing. The reason why you have the show you have and you have the sponsorships you have is they feel as though the hours you provide cannot be provided by someone else at that same level. Do you know that's why you're here? I hope.
I would say this platform is a different kind of platform, though.
This is where I disagree with David. Like, yes, we're doing this thing on our own that allows us to have our own economy, but it's hurt ESPN not at all to not have us. There's no real damage there. They could let go of my salary without any damage being done to ESPN. It doesn't mean that they're not letting go of something that's valuable to me, but it's not valuable to them and doesn't have to be.
They could let go of Stephen A. Smith and they'd be fine. They could let go of Pat McAfee and they'd be fine.
You say they'd be fine, but First Take would be something less than fine.
But ESPN would be fine.
Okay,
it's his larger point.
But the show that he does that makes money, yes,
would
of course.
not be as good.
Would
of
Disney
course.
be okay? Yes, Disney can withstand anyone.
Right.
And Disney can withstand any human being in any walk of life leaving without impacting the brand. He already did. They lost the rights to Steamboat Willie and nobody cared.
That's not Mickey, though.
Right.
I think I figured out the problem with your popcorn, Dan. It's stale.
Huh.
That's because you weren't here last night when it was fresh.
Maybe.
You and Stu, only 2 members of the shipping container not to be on the stained carpet.
Was the popcorn good?
I didn't eat it.
Really?
You can't taste anything, Stu.
I also, when you're
Allegedly.
talking,
Right, still.
I don't know if Jessica shared with you, she was eating the popcorn, thought it was a little dry, and it got in the way of some analysis during the Oscars.
I would say, Dan, if I were to critique your famous popcorn recipe, it needs a little bit more moisture and more seasoning. The seasoning was good, but I wanted more of it. I wanted it to rub off on my fingers like a Doritos Locos taco.
It's in the bottom of the popcorn bin is the problem.
Well, then we need to mix it
Has to be
better.
on top.
Yeah,
That's
on you,
if there
man.
were more moisture, it would
bad
adhere
strategy.
to the
Right.
popcorn
I mean,
kernels
You
better.
gotta do it right.
You just need more liquid so that
He's saying user error. He's saying you didn't mix the popcorn well enough before doling
I'm
it out.
saying add a little liquid. And then it'll stick to the kernels better,
Right.
and it won't all sink to the bottom. But it was delicious. I ate my entire box, Dan.
I think
Whoa,
this is
phrasing.
being
Out of respect?
Yes.
I think this is being misrepresented around here in a way that's deeply unfair to me, and I'll get the honest truth tellers later in the week as opposed to the lies being told now to embarrass me, because if those things were not delicious, you ate an awful lot of it for it not to be delicious.
It was a 7-hour show. People were starving.
There was
People
plenty of
would have
there was
eaten
plenty of food out.
cockroaches.
There was plenty of food out there.
Jess,
that
was there
wasn't popcorn.
conversation like, hey, we need to eat Dan's popcorn? It's terrible, but we need to eat Dan's popcorn.
To be honest, it did. It unfolded quite organically, much like the popcorn itself, I assume. When Lucy had her first bite and was like, "This is weird," and then I was like, "Lucy,
Again?
say that on the microphone. You don't know the whole bit with the popcorn, but trust me, this is gonna crush."
Do it on the mic.
She did say that it was weird, and I will tell you that she still has it on her breath this morning because she ate so much of it.
Stu, what you missed is that Dan was delivering the popcorn personally to people.
Right.
And when the boss brings you something, even if you don't like it, you take it.
I
That's my
didn't.
point,
I didn't
yes.
bring her the
You-
other
and you
2
eat it,
boxes
yes.
of it that she had.
No, but once you start, people understood how much it meant to you. I read all the texts you sent me before the show about
All
your
I asked you
popcorn.
was, how many people am I making popcorn for?
You asked me
That's
3
it.
times,
Right.
so I made up a number.
Everybody knew how important the popcorn was.
Right.
The popcorn is not important.
What you do in that situation, though, is you take a couple of bites, you tell Dan how great it is, you wait for Dan to leave, and then you toss it in the garbage. I mean,
I'm sure nothing drove David crazier than trying to get a head count for Sunday night.
No, I didn't try. Because
you just gave up immediately.
I just said to Mike Ryan, I said, "What's the number?" Mike texted me 25, and I didn't really give him context, so I just gave 25 to Dan so I could stop the back and forth on the popcorn.
You like the margaritas, too, because, good Lord, we got some drinkers. You guys polished off the margaritas. The margaritas got polished off so damn fast that I thought I brought enough for 20 people, and it was gone in 15 minutes. And Roy was drunk inside of 45
You
minutes.
had the wrong ratio. It's more drink, less popcorn. You went more popcorn.
I think there was so much popcorn that people were thirsty to wash it down the kernels because even excellent popcorn. Not saying yours wasn't excellent, but even excellent moist popcorn kernels, they get stuck back here and in the molars, Dan. So you need to wash it down. You need to always have a beverage. So I think the tequila Jose Cuervo to popcorn ratio was just we needed more liquid.
This isn't bad. I don't know what the criticism is. It's fine.
No, it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just needs to be more seasoning.
Rudy Gobert, getting back to the conversation that we were having earlier, Luka Doncic did the same thing with the money gesture and got fined $35,000. So it's 3 times as much for Gobert because he's a recidivist. Yes, he is a serial offender.
Yeah, that's where David was right on this. Is he's been fined multiple times before in regard to the refs. The last player in the NBA to be fined $100,000 was James Harden, but that was because he refused to play for the 76ers.
Of course.
So I've been scouring the internet, cannot find another player who's been fined that much for any criticism of the referee. The only person who's been fined, it's been Mark Cuban, who's just racked up $20 million in fines for criticizing the refs over the years.
He was fined $500,000 in 2022 and $500,000 in 2020 for criticizing the officials, and then he did that thing where he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to match it and give it to charity, and then he turned it into a big win, which is crazy because I thought that went to charity anyways. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to give it to charity. And then he was also fined $600,000 in 2018 for saying it's better for us to lose, which is also something that you're not supposed to be saying.
That's the integrity issue yet again.
You speak of the officiating, and I don't believe that Shaquille O'Neal at any point in his career could be officiated correctly, but Shaq has said that if he played today, Stugotz, he would average 60 points a game easily. He says he would average 60 points a game easily, and that he would be paid $300 million a year tax-free. So he would also
over the cap. He'd be the cap.
Tax-free. Let's hear Shaquille O'Neal dismissing one of Stugotz's heroes.
What people don't understand, I throw this word out because they need to understand, G14 classification. So if you were great like a Shaq and a Cam, we have G14 classification.
To say whatever you want.
Yes, because we've been there and we've done that on high levels since high school, college, and the pros. We've been there and done that. So when we say something, don't always take it personal. He knows how to be a pressured quarterback in the Super Bowl. He knows all that, so he's allowed to speak on that. But a lot of times when he speaks, people get sensitive. A lot of times when I speak, people get sensitive. But you need to understand G14 classification. Now, it's a lot of dudes who have no G14 classification, like Mad Dog. What the do you know about quarterback? What do you know about being a bit so shut the up, Mad Dog. Stick to the traditional media. When it comes to sports, you don't know what you're talking about. I do.
I hate that. I really do. First off, leave Doggy alone. He's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. Shaq, we're not watching you split atoms. We're watching you play basketball. That's what we're doing. It's easy for us to break it down. Just because we didn't play at the highest of levels doesn't mean we can't have an informed, good opinion about something we're watching on TV. I hate when athletes do that. I really do. Especially the Doggy, a legend in the game.
Stugotz, what's a Spain pick and roll?
What?
Just overheard Samson and Stugotz talk about their sudden fear of flying. Samson is bolting here in a little bit because he's got to get back to New York. He has been carrying the entirety of the network here for about 36 hours, and so he's headed back. What is the nature of your fear? Because I heard you both talking, and we might as well talk about it on air because I wanted to show you guys and the audience a video from over the weekend.
David is flying today, and I flew last night and I flew United. And I asked David if you're flying United. He said, no, he's an American guy. He's flying American Airlines. I fly United now, Dan. It feels, flying in general feels like a crapshoot, but United really feels like a coin toss, man.
It's the safest way to travel, Stugotz, so I don't know how you define crapshoot.
I mean, planes are making emergency landings left and right. Doors are falling off. Wheels are falling off. Things are falling off planes. I mean...
But they're all landing safely, so it's... I mean, look, one wheel fell off, but there's still 6 other wheels there on that one, leg. That's fine.
It's a different story if that wheel doesn't fall into a parking lot without cars. That wheel falls on a person.
Look at these cars.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with my fear of flying. That's my fear of just being a human walking around.
I just don't know how you approve a plane for takeoff when a door comes off mid-flight or a wheel falls off mid-flight.
Well, they weren't expecting that to
That's
happen.
that's the problem, Stugotz.
Expect it.
That is the problem. Like, there's been a lot of criticism about the cost-cutting measures that the airlines have put in place and that the airline manufacturers have put in place, and that is why people feel unsafe right now because while there hasn't been a huge commercial airline crash in the United States in decades, knock on wood, hopefully that never happens again. There's incidents happening every day, and because we have video of all of them, they're going viral, and especially the incident on Alaska Air where the door fell off mid-flight.
That was not ideal.
People's phones and clothes got sucked through into the night sky. People are freaked out, and they should be. We should demand better of people that are in charge of our safety.
I would like to see if you'll do a poll for me. And I'm not captaining the ship today, but I do have a poll. Would you rather own a stock that goes up, or would you rather have a plane that works?
Wow.
And
it's a good question.
I asked
it
that
is a good
seriously
question,
because
yes.
what we're
The
talking
people
about
that own the
is Boeing.
stock would probably answer different than people that don't, which is scary.
What Jessica was referring to is Boeing, and Boeing's having a real problem.
Last week tonight did a comprehensive report, as they often do, on just Boeing and all of their cost cutting and the partnership that they got into that made Boeing go from the safest and most respected of all the airlines to something that has been contaminated and corrupted by the need for profit.
By the need for stock price. It doesn't have to be profit. You can have a good stock price. There's a ton of great stocks where the companies have never made $1, which is very bizarre. So it's not even that. It's that they needed their price to increase their stock price. There was a ton of pressure from that partnership. And so the issue is that Boeing doesn't have the number of inspectors they used to have. There's not the duplication of jobs that used to exist. So they'll get rid of layers to save money. Still, you'd expect the door to be bolted. I mean, there's like a bottom line of stuff.
Well, you'd also expect for giant wheels not to fall out of the sky in a way that could kill anybody that was below.
No, that's exactly right. I have been privately following this Boeing situation since the two really tragic crashes in 2017 and 2018, I believe, the Ethiopian Airlines flight and the Indonesian airline, I think, was the
737 Maxes.
The 737 Maxes, which had some sort of software update. I'm not technically savvy enough to describe to you what it was, but horrible incidents and reading about what happened to these people and how their families have been trying to get justice for them. It is horrifying and terrifying, and Boeing has largely gotten away with it and has now relaunched these Boeing Maxes. They fixed the software issue, but now the Max 9, which is the flight that the Alaskan Airlines flight that had the fuselage door that came loose, is the center of attention. They grounded all of those flights or all of those aircraft for months while they inspected all of them. And it's like, when is there going to be some sort of like address that happens to Boeing where it's like, you guys are lucky something worse hasn't happened. You're lucky there wasn't someone sitting in the seat
happen. It just didn't happen in America.
Exactly right. And that is 100% why it's terrifying, why it's like scary to anyone who's paying attention, because it was largely able to be swept under the rug here. And I don't know, I didn't watch the John Oliver clip yet, but
it's 30 minutes he dedicated to just this, and it's all horrifying.
And there's so much entanglement between the companies and the government regulators that I think really should frighten people because it's like, who's in charge here? Like, how do we find some sort of safeguard for passengers when everyone knows each other in this industry and they're looking out for each other?
They changed the marketing. So no longer, so it used to be that people were scared after these crashes, they wouldn't fly on the Maxes. So Boeing, instead of actually hiring people to have it not happen, instead they changed the name of the plane. So you don't often see anymore. It's now the 737-900, the 737-800, the 737-700. They
out
do
of
it.
sight, out of mind.
Out of sight. Listen, who
Love
wants
it.
to think about it?
But I'm more
when you're
inclined
at
to
the
walk on that
airport.
plane, though.
When there are tires falling out of the sky, I want somebody to have thought about it.
But you changed the name. That's a heady play. I mean,
There are.
I mean, yes, on Stugotz Clownface Airlines, it's a heady play. Not if I'm risking my life.
It's still way safer to fly than it is to take 95 in Miami.
This is just like when I was in college at UCF and there was a string of armed robberies in a stairwell at one of the apartment complexes, and instead of actually hiring new security, they just changed the name of the apartment complex before the new freshmen came in.
David, that's a great point about I-95, though, because automobiles are very dangerous, and driving in the United States is extremely exponentially more dangerous than flying. But the automobile industry is not something that we've regulated the same way as the airline industry. You're seeing cars that can go 200 miles an hour. Just anyone can have a car that goes faster than is legal to drive in this country. Like, there's no limitations on manufacturing cars that can kill people, or cars that are super heavy that can crush smaller cars. And so it's interesting when people say that, because it's like, yeah, well, driving is something we've accepted as a necessity to get around in the United States, but it is extremely dangerous, and we just treat it like it's okay, but I don't think that's okay either. That's it's terrifying.
I hate
driving on 95.
Welcome to Miami. It's terrifying, but I think
one of the reasons why I hate living here. I hate driving here.
She's the second person
Terrifying.
who just said this from your group. I think we
Lucy
may have around. Lucy doesn't like it here.
A lot of people who moved to Miami don't like it here.
How are we addressing that as a company?
I'm not fixing Miami.
Is there any way you can fix anything?
Billy Corbin's fixing Miami.
Can you let them relocate to the New York studio?
No, we got enough people working abroad. We need some of them
David's
to work
onto
here.
Something.
I want
just for the summers.
I want to play for both of you guys a couple of things that I have not seen a lot of before in sports, and so I ask you which of these two is rarer. But before I do that, can you look up for me something that someone told me this weekend that I did not verify, that I can't believe is so, but somebody was insisting it's so, that Jay-Z and Beyonce have a car that is so expensive and of a certain weight that it is a tax deduction. All of it is a tax deduction completely because of the weight of it. And so because I haven't verified and because of what you guys were talking about.
I think a lot of people do that with Navigators. Like, you can write off company cars because of the weight of the car.
So if you could look that up for me, I'd appreciate
work,
it. We're about to find out by looking it up.
I didn't know there was a correlation to weight. If they use it for business, you can deduct it.
But combined with the weight of the car, it's also evidently very expensive.
Do you think Karl Malone could deduct his 18-wheeler? Is that the theory?
I don't know, David.
My accountant can write off anything.
Yeah.
I mean, got a guy.
I would be careful about how loudly you say that.
It's a joke. Come on, IRS.
Tax season, Dano.
It's literally the worst time to say that. And between March 1st and April 15th, you don't make any public IRS jokes.
Do it on the 16th.
Ever. Yes.
You've stirred somebody who had slowly fallen asleep at his desk. He's just
Let me look at Stugotz.
He's collecting government checks. He's bored. He hates his job, and we get him through 3.5 hours of the day.
If your car weighs over 6,000 pounds and is mainly used for business, you can get a partial deduction and bonus for depreciation.
Wow.
So what qualifies as using it for business then? I guess they can say since they're
shooting a music video,
driven around
any
in it,
asset you can depreciate. So I don't know what that has to do with it. I don't understand that part of the
tax
definition.
code is crazy. Am
It's
I right?
horrible.
Let me play for you guys two things that I have not seen before.
Am I right?
So confusing.
One of them is the Utah State women's basketball coach, Kayla Ard. This is the last press conference of her season. I've never seen this before.
And how do you plan to rebuild for next season?
I'm not going to be rebuilding. I just coached my last game at Utah State. I spoke with Diana, and they're going in a different direction, and I respect her decision, and I hope they get a really good coach in. assuming that's going to be the last question. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All. Thank you, Coach.
That is not ideal PR.
Awkward.
That is the punctuation on her career. So you tell me which is odder, that or, and I don't have video here for this, but Lance Lynn, and of course this happened with the blight on our people, Billy Angel Hernandez, who ejected Lance Lynn from a spring training game, and then Lance Lynn went to the bullpen to keep throwing. And he ejected him from the bullpen as well.
That's baseball. I mean,
he went and he ejected Lance Lynn twice.
That's on Lance.
That's on Angel. Although where Lance was, he's on the Cardinals. At Roger Dean, did this happen?
Yeah.
He could have gone to the
There's
backfield.
there's plenty of fields that he can throw.
That was a little FU to Angel.
But come on. What are we doing? It's spring training. This reminds me the other day, I don't know, we didn't talk about it, but Thomas Bryant of the Heat, because he won the championship with the Nuggets but was suspended, they let him go back into the arena in Denver to get his ring, but then immediately after the ceremony, they told him he had to leave the building. He couldn't even
stay for the game.
Those are the rules, Dan.
He couldn't even get nostalgic with his championship teammates. He immediately had to leave. It's like, come on.
Poor TB. He was so upset. You could see it on his face. He's getting his championship ring, and he knows, I'm going to have to walk out of here.
What are we doing?
It's awful.
What are we doing? It's hard to win a championship.
At least they let him get his ring, right? Like that's when he was
They
suspended.
opened the window.
They no.
They opened the window for him.
You can't stop the ring. The ring's the thing.
I mean, Lance Lynn
Sorrow
is
man.
throwing a bullpen. I don't know if you guys agree with Wesley Morris, the famed movie critic for the New York Times. Wesley Morris is on a recent episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out, and among the things that he said is there are no more movie stars anymore. That Tom Cruise and Denzel Washington and The Rock, that is the last age of what movie stars look like, and that it's all changing. I think Emma Stone has a pretty good chance of being a movie star, however it is that you define such things. I guess Bradley Cooper and Ryan Gosling are movie stars.
Carey Mulligan.
I think of that less so in the sphere that I'm putting these people as a recognizable name. But what I wanted to ask you guys is, do you agree first with the premise that that movies are changing so much, fewer of them are being made, you can get movies? It's sort of the same thing I was talking about when I was saying that the sports broadcasters throughout sports media, all of us, are largely disposable. The way they're making movies, the way they're negotiating in Hollywood over artificial intelligence, the more you diminish the star power of the biggest stars, the more you can maximize profit or stock price so that all the movies can be a little more like Boeing and, wheels are falling off at the movie theater. But you can keep remaking American Psycho like they're talking about doing, or Roadhouse, and you can traffic on nostalgia and do Guardians of the Galaxy and the Marvel movies. You could save Disney by just putting Deadpool and Wolverine together, and in 24 hours you get a trailer that is seen by more people than anyone has ever seen in that amount of time before, because you put the two superheroes together. You love the movies, David. Is what Wesley Morris saying, first of all, true?
Not in my mind. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, are they not movie stars? Ryan Gosling, movie star.
They are,
These are young.
but we're talking like
Scarlett Johansson,
the
movie
De
star.
Niros, the Pacinos, the Val Kilmers. Like that day is.
That's because we're old.
Val Kilmer was a movie star, Dan. I mean, that guy.
No one is putting
Once
him in
upon a time.
It's not De Niro, Pacino, and Kilmer. That's not the law firm.
The Holy
that people-
Trinity.
Oh, it is for
I mean,
me.
come on.
Trinity of
Stallone. I mean,
Kilmer.
not making them like they used to, David.
They are.
No.
This is, I think, someone overreacting to what's going on with AI, overreacting. I think the middle class of stars going away, but not the highlight of the top of the mountain.
I can't even believe this is the proper articulation of the take, because it feels so off base. Like, there are so many movie stars in their current 40s or so, which is the age we're talking about, late 30s, early 40s with some of these stars, and even the next crop. Like
Margot Robbie,
Timothée Chalamet, and Tom Holland are both movie stars.
stars.
Like movie stars, real movie stars, blockbuster movie stars.
Different. Chalamet, I saw him the other day in the Willy Wonka remake. We're making movie stars differently than we used to because it's not
The
quite
right way, Dan.
It's not. Chalamet's style icon
That's my guy.
is Kenny the Jet Smith, which surprised me, caught me off guard to have Timothy Chalamet say that his style fashion icon is Kenny the Jet Smith.
Pretty crazy that guy, whose name is Timothée Chalamet, is actually just a Jew from New York theater kid. It's hilarious. It's perfect.
Who rides his bike all the way around New York City.
Yeah, he's
all
the
time.
best. I love him.
He's just a normal guy. In Love the Coopers as an awkward kid. May not remember that callback to Chalamet starting. I completely disagree with the take. I'm happy Pablo had him on. It got a lot of views for Metal Arc, but I thought the take was very lazy.
You all saw that Jesse Plemons was very thin yesterday. Fat Damon, as he's referred to. You know the face if you don't know the name necessarily. He got very thin.
So the problem in Hollywood, and this came up during the show last night, people were asking about who the current Ozempic people are in Hollywood. It's a big thing. People are taking Ozempic, and they're getting Ozempic face. I was struck by Jesse Plemons. I'm hoping it's for a role. I'm hoping he's doing a Matthew McConaughey type role, maybe some sort of disease, some sort of thing he's got to work through.
Well, you're not hoping it's a disease, to be clear.
That he's
playing someone with
he's
playing
playing.
a role.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
right.
Okay, all right. I'm just being... David?
Well, you did earlier say that you thought someone would be okay with all the people dead in Ukraine so they could win an award. So,
You did say
sometimes
that.
we got to question
You
your
did
But he was
say
takes.
very clear on this one.
You did
I mean,
say that.
That's not exactly how he
I
said
also
it.
Pretty much
said
exactly how I said it.
agents last night and not Asians. So I think I need to enunciate better.
This was not enunciation. It was just terrible judgment. It was not an enunciation problem. It was just really rancid judgment.
It happens when you're speaking for 36 consecutive hours.
I say that Oscars for documentary filmmakers, you've hit the mother lode.
Right.
You win an Oscar for best documentary, you are
Please
green
stop.
lit.
Go again.
Then I'm just going to go.
Just go
If you
for
do
2
that,
minutes.
then I go.
Go. No, you don't have to go. Just go to the penalty box.
No, but I'm
Don't-
telling you that I'm only going if I go.
Go to the penalty box.
Yeah, but he's going for good, is what he's saying.
I don't threaten me. You're not going to threaten me and get out of the penalty box. If you want to go for good for getting again around the inference and insinuation that people should die so someone could win an award.
If you're
Take
going-
that out of here. Don't double down on it.
Right.
Don't just get out of here with it.
If you're going for good, Dave, you might want to take your phone.
Seems like an empty threat when you leave your phone
It's a
behind.
classic. Oh, I left
Classic David
something
Sampson.
behind after
Anchor
the date.
phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In the context of what Hollywood does visually, Stugotz, and the pressure
Walk
that
of
it
shame.
puts human beings under, and insecurities and the vanities, the way that it feeds them. I saw that Ryan Gosling, because there was a close-up on his face as he was doing the Ken stuff, he's a classically handsome human being who has movie star good looks, but it was obvious from the close-up right on his face that there was a great deal of filler that he's using. And it got me to thinking, because there's so much vanity in this business, Stugotz, I actually did some research. And I can't believe what I'm about to say to you. I did not know this before I looked it up. I did not know that there was such a thing as a chin implant. That
What?
Now, hold on a second. It's not Ryan Gosling who has the chin implant.
It's Bill Cower?
It is... No, they implant
That was great.
Cower's chin in Michael B. Jordan when he grows up as a kid without a chin, and then it becomes obvious that Michael B. Jordan has a chin implant. And also, if you look at photographs, and this isn't hard to find, Emma Stone, Stugotz, her face does not look the same as it did when she was 17 or 18 years old. It looks different, and people do the investigative work on this stuff, and they shame these people.
But like most people's faces don't look the same from when they were 17 or 18
And contouring
years old.
makeup looks different, and you lose baby fat.
Okay, but chin implant.
It looks like the same chin to me, but I haven't
This
had a chin
whole
implant.
doctor or plastic surgeon makes a TikTok video over photos of celebrities is it's making so many doctors, air quotes to some of them probably, so much money. People love to consume content where they can look at a celebrity's face and be like, oh, they got this done, they got that done, they have veneers, they have filler, they have this and that. Like, it is just an entire economy now, and I just can't even, like, I watch it. Like, I'm not saying, like, I'm better than this. Like, it's interesting to watch, but I don't even know how you can be sure of it. Like, I don't know how none of them are going to admit that they've gotten this work done. So a lot of times it's just strangers speculating on someone's own history with plastic surgery, and it's kind of weird.
Can I get a picture of Dan when you were 18 versus when you were 35? And
Sure.
I'm going to suggest that you will look as though you've had something done.
That's fine, but a chin implant is not something that I thought was
an option,
was available to
Right.
me. It's not even something. And I'm tying.
Are you thinking about getting one?
I'm tying it to the previous conversation that we were having about movie stars, because if Michael B. Jordan is a movie star, Michael B. Jordan's looks are part of why he's a movie star, and then a chin implant becomes a pressure that you have because you have to make your face look a certain way.
He was a kid in that picture. You're sure he had a chin
I'm not
implant?
sure. I am not sure,
I feel like
David.
when we're young, we all look young.
I am not sure, but a lot of people are, as Jessica is saying, a lot of people are doing this expertly, and you could put photographs in front of me that would make me believe that Michael B. Jordan got a chin implant.
Expert in air quotes too, because some of the people doing it are just like armchair experts. But there was a whole like when that Jennifer Lawrence movie came out, I think No Hard Feelings, people were coming at her and saying like, you look like you've gotten work done. What happened to you? Like, why did you change your face? And she I don't know if she's had any work done, but she claims she hasn't, and that it was kind of like weird for all these people to be saying that about her, and that she became very famous when she was very young. She won her first Oscar when she was 22, and now she's 10 years older, and she's like, I'm just older now. I look different. My face is hollowed out, and it's like kind of there's like an ugly side to it where it's like feels like people just making very like critical and just kind of commentary about the way people look that I then think feeds back into the whole cycle of like celebrities trying to get all of this work done so that people can't criticize them for looking like they're getting older. And obviously in Hollywood, there's been criticism about the casting of women for years. And once you reach a certain age, they don't make roles for women because people don't want to watch movies with older women in them or women that look like they've aged at all. So it all kind of feeds into this nasty cycle of
80 for Brady.
80 for Brady. Exactly why I loved it, because 4 older women starring in a movie that completely retconned the New England Patriots Super Bowl, which that part I hated. But Rita Moreno and Sally Field, Jane Fonda, who am I forgetting, David?
Those are movie stars.
Absolute stars. And
Real movie
you don't
stars.
see
Real
4
movie
older
stars,
women
thank
get to
you.
star in a film very often together and be celebrated and cast for their age.
I think it does set, all of this sets an impossible beauty standard that is damaging to a whole lot of people. But some of the people I didn't expect to be damaged by it would look like Michael B. Jordan looked before what is alleged is a chin implant. Like where you're placing the standard on how someone has to look to achieve with age in Hollywood makes the whole thing feel ugly and blemished.
But maybe David's just right about how you look when you're 17 and how you look when you're 35. Like, can we put the picture of you back up on the screen there? Because you do look a lot different. I mean, you really do.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Yes. That's in preview. You're looking at the wrong screen.
Right.
That's
no, I'm seeing it. But you did have a chin implant. You added a second. I mean,
that's not nice.
What happened there?
It was. No, don't. You don't have to leave. No, you don't understand what happened. He was just. That all was said so he could get to that joke. Like.
Of the second chin?
He only, yes.
That's as good as he got?
No, that was
that
all.
picture?
He didn't say anything for 10 minutes because he was just trying to get in position.
Some chin music.
To tell that joke.
Just wasted the whole segment.
But he's
waiting
looking
for you to
at
get
the
to
wrong
that.
TV screen, and it's like.
I'm doing what I do, Dana.
Yeah.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, it's arguably the best time on the sports calendar. The punching of tickets, automatic bid, last 4 in, first 4 outs, upsets, buzzer beaters, senior guard play, Sister Jean, and Joe Lenardi. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, March is back.
Sister Jean, I saw her the other day on the court. She's 104 years old, Stugotz.
Yeah? Was she taking credit for someone's victory, or what was going on? What was she doing?
He is the nation's preeminent Sister Jean critic. It is a lane no one else occupies.
It's weird.
It's a terrible lane.
It really is.
Even for you.
I regret the lane that I chose.
Do you?
I do.
This may be his only thing he regrets.
It doesn't feel like he regrets it.
That felt genuine.
He didn't have
I
to
keep
do it
digging
there.
deeper, yeah.
He didn't have to do it to her there.
It was written for him. He's just reading.
He's reading his writing.
My thoughts,
in this
yes.
case.
Right.
In this case, it's not written for him.
Dan, don't look now, but St. John's is out for blood. The last thing you want a Rick Pitino team to do is let them sink their teeth in. I hope they
First
make it.
round exit.
No.
At
Stop.
best.
They're out for blood.
It's just a couple of vampire jokes, Samson. It's not a critique of the backcourt of St.
Give me
John's.
your-
Does he
Although
know
a good
the
one.
backcourt of
It's
St. John's?
Well, their experience.
It's
That's what I
just,
know.
that's all he knows. It's just a couple of vampire jokes.
Yeah. If you're ever wondering how much talent Kentucky has, they have 2 lottery picks coming off the bench.
They're pretty good.
It's insane, man.
They're not the best.
Russell Wilson is a Steeler, which is fitting because he was stealing money from Denver for 2 years. Russell Wilson. Sorry, I got mixed up. Kansas, do it on the road. Took a gummy on Saturday, turned on Arkansas and Alabama, and could not figure out who was who. I love a good gummy.
Sponsored by?
It's hard, right?
That's tough.
Their team colors are similar.
That's actually pretty
they're,
tough.
They're similar. They are.
Not a single player you know.
Understand.
Never used to be that way in
how,
sports.
how it
Right,
happens.
you're right. Matthew Cleveland transferring to Miami from Florida State and then getting swept by Florida State. Hey, Matthew, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Here's a stat for you. The last time the Miami Hurricanes won a basketball game was a week before the Super Bowl. Blue Bloods. Coach L. More like Coach L's. Coach L, combined with the things you do to kill time driving around the Midwest on a gummy in the passenger seat. Top 5 athletes that connote a letter in the alphabet. OLI. B. Brian Blair. CC Sabathia. Ernie Els. Michael K.
Are these all OLIs?
Yeah, I'm at number 5 now.
Okay.
Alonzo G. Gummy, driving around the Midwest.
Yeah.
In
Coach
the
L.
passenger seat.
Yes,
Passenger
of
seat.
course.
It's
yes.
important to note.
Thank you, Dave. Number 4, D. Brown. Number 3, John Jay. Number 2, T. Martin. Thank you. Number 1, Pee Wee Reese.
Good player.
Thank you. That's all you have for me, good player.
That's it.
Hall of Famer, right?
Pee Wee Herman died this year.
Really?
He was in the in memoriam.
Famous peas?
Very famous.
Here come the Islanders.
His is the
His is the
his
most
is
of
one
all
of the
of them.
most famous public peas, actually.
Second to George Michael.
The Isles.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. More famous masturbator, public masturbator, George Michael or Pee Wee Herman?
Don't put that on the poll.
Okay.
George Michael, that's not what he was caught with. It was fornication.
So it's different.
That's a fine.
Yes, it's
And it is different.
Somebody else involved. Thank you.
In fact, it is.
Hey,
Bill is a
Alpin-
consequentialist.
sorry.
Maybe it's not. Sorry, Stu.
Got in the way of your segment.
Excellent timing.
Hey, Oppenheimer. Save some awards for everyone else.
You didn't even watch.
You're right. South Carolina, LSU, Chippy. The Miami Marlins are allowing drums and all musical instruments into games this season. I swear to you, if I go to a game and the guy behind me has a tuba, I'm going to punch him square in the face. What are they doing?
You won't go to a game.
You're right.
No risk of violence at the Marlins game. What they're doing is trying to create the same Latin atmosphere that they had for the Caribbean player.
I tried it for decades. Doesn't work.
He did try it. He tried.
We allowed all that stuff. We just didn't do a press release. We did a Vuvuzela game. We did it all.
You did. I hated that game.
By the way, it doesn't work.
Right.
News alert. Nice try. And no one walks around with tubas.
Ryan Gosling. So hot. My wife did that thing, he kept coming across the TV screen. Who is that? It's like
Your
Rob
wife doesn't
Saleh.
know who Ryan Gosling is.
Well, he looks different,
He does not.
No, he doesn't.
So hot. Duke, Carolina, with the ACC title on the line, just feels right. You want a good workout? Walk from the check-in counter to Terminal C at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, ORD. I do it 4 times a week. I mean, it's a workout, man. Oof.
Can we talk about Duke for a second? They led for
Dukies.
16 seconds this season against North Carolina. And,
Which 16?
And
The last 16?
not irrelevant 16. And Kyle Flipowski is like all of the Duke players. It rolled into one, all of them.
Yeah.
He tripped a player.
With his
Got away with it.
his paralyzed leg.
Tripkowski.
He had a windmill dunk in the game after that court storming, by the way.
What?
Didn't he claim that he didn't trip anybody? Didn't he say that didn't he allege? Didn't he deny tripping anybody? After we all saw him trip somebody.
Which tripping? I'm talking about in the game.
This one, the one in.
I'm sure he denied it, but it looked like he tripped someone on the UNC.
He did.
To my eyes.
Primo Spears. Great name. That's all I got. Russell Wilson had more touchdown passes last year than the Steelers have had as a team the last 2 seasons. You know what the Steelers got there, Dano? They got an upgrade. Yeah, good. Wow, look at
I was
you.
you didn't give me it. I was trying to
That's
answer
very
it
good.
for you. Yeah.
That's good though.
Thank you.
The 76ers beat the Knicks 79-73. The Knicks' 73 points matches the 73 points that Luka Doncic scored in a game by himself. A 79-73 loss felt like a win for Tom Thibodeau. Thibs. I mean, he loves that game.
Put it on the poll, Juju at Le Batard Show. Did a 79-73 loss feel like a win to Tibbs?
No one loves a good rock fight more than Tom Thibodeau. Even if he's on the losing end, he was just so happy a game was played in the 70s.
Yep, that's true.
Thank you.
Pat Riley used to love those games too.
Yes.
Back in the day.
No doubt.
Ugly games.
Stetson headed to March Madness for the first time. The Hatters.
I'm more surprised to see that score, 79-73, at the end of a game than I am to see it at the half. Do you know how crazy that is?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I thought it was halftime when I saw the box score.
Mm-hmm. How about the Hatters, though? If you're going to give Dan Hurley a technical, he's going to get his money's worth.
That's true.
He really does. He's going to be my coach come March Madness. That's what I got. Dan, you know what the C in Chris Jones stands for?
I do not.
Cha-ching.
Was a lot of money.
A lot of guaranteed
Good for him,
money.
though.
I mean, yeah.
No, but you said this a year ago or 2 years ago where the most important guy in that sport besides the quarterback is the guy that can get to the quarterback. And Chris Jones gets to the quarterback, and he's getting paid to do it now.
Or the guy who could keep the guy from getting to the
Right.
quarterback because
Which
Chris
gets sacrificed now.
Chris Jones is as much a reason for why it is that team won this year as Patrick Mahomes. Early in the season when he was holding out, they lost. They were losing. They need Chris Jones.
Mm-hmm. Stetson, the rare college that connotes a 2-time national championship winning quarterback, and the Cologne. First half Iowa-Nebraska observations. Dan, the C in Caitlin Clark stands for choked.
Oh, come on.
First half observations. You know what the C in Clark stands for? It stands for Cheryl Miller. She is not. Second half observations. Dan, the C in Caitlin Clark stands for clutch. You know what the C in Clark stands for? Champion.
What? She's not a
C's are in her
champion.
name.
These are second half observations.
But how many?
You know what the C in Clark also stands for?
Don't.
Cheryl Miller can't hold a candle to this kid.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
flip. Tale of two halves.
Well, yeah. Hey, I got to cross that one out.
Where's the ring?
There's no ring.
You know what the C in Cornhusker stands
You
for?
get a ring for winning the conference championship tournament, don't you?
Choke
you?
job.
Do you?
Yeah, I think
Do
so.
you get a
Yeah,
tournament?
you get a ring.
trophy?
Yeah.
Tournament?
Rachel got a
wouldn't-
Big Ten championship
Why wouldn't you
ring.
get a ring?
Right.
I thought they were only for national championships.
You thought wrong?
I think it's bizarre for people to wear their high school ring to a meeting when you're 40. But that's
It's
just
not
me.
a high school ring, though.
It's the
It's the
equivalent.
best time of your life, though.
It's not.
Championship.
A high
Big
school
Ten
ring is the
championship.
equivalent
Makes
of a
you
high
sad?
school ring. I'm not saying it's the coolest ring. I'm just saying it is not a high school ring.
But what are you saying,
There's
just to be
cooler
clear?
rings.
If you win a Big Ten championship, like, when do you have to take the ring off?
No one wears their Big Ten championship ring except for people who have not won anything else.
But when do you have to stop wearing it?
The day it comes.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Do it at the Oscars. 10 nominations. And they went 0 for 10. Like Joe Mauer trying to win a playoff game. Good news for Killers of the Flower Moon. Those kinds of numbers got Mauer into the Hall of Fame. First ballot. The guy didn't win a playoff game. David agrees with me. I cannot believe this.
Did you think I would not? Joe Mauer is not a first ballot Hall of Fame player.
He's a Hall of Famer.
First
I thought
ballot.
you said first ballot.
Yeah, no, first ballot. That's my problem with
I
it.
differentiate
Yes.
first ballot from eighth ballot.
He's moving the goalposts. He's been ripping Joe Mauer for getting into the Hall of Fame at any time.
I mean, Michael Kadire had a better season than him the year he won the MVP. You think Fletcher Cox is going to get an hour to thank the band coach?
That's funny. Fletcher Cox should look at what's
6
happening
Pro Bowls.
with Jason Kelsey and be like, I'm just as good as that dude.
That's
is.
Taylor Swift. That's all that is.
Yeah. College basketball is better when there's a Duke player to hate. In fairness to the Duke students, I'd throw trash on the court too if I spent 2 months of my life living in a tent only to watch my team give up 31 points to Cormac Ryan. Also, Cormac Ryan, you are 25 years old. Here's an idea. Get a job. Caitlin Clark, do it in the first half. March Madness, UConn of the field. Who you got, Dana?
Get a job.
Hey, 25.
I mean, isn't NIL? You don't think of college sports now as a
It is
job?
a job. They're making money. They have income.
But you're
Taxable
25,
income.
you're playing against 18-year-olds.
They're making more than most 25-year-olds.
It's fair. Get a job.
They have a job.
Get a different job, one that Stugotz approves of.
His job?
At his age.
Just get a job. You know what the S in Stetson stands for?
No.
Senior guard play. Watch out for the Pels. Couple of late stragglers to our topic last week of what Dan would be called if he was a candy bar. Kit Fat. Peppermint Fatty. The first two teams locked into the
That's
field.
it?
That's all. I said a couple.
that's
A couple.
it?
That was two.
You did say a couple.
I said a couple. A couple is two.
I mean,
That's it. I didn't want to go too deep. I mean, sensitive.
How many pages do you have left?
4. The first two teams locked into the field of 68. That's a lot of teams. We're Moorhead and Longwood. Top 5 schools. That would make a teenager giggle.
That one I liked. That's the first one I liked.
Number
Moorhead.
5. Fairleigh Dickinson.
That would always crack me up.
The Knights.
that's where my father went to school.
Really?
Fairly ridiculous.
I would love to hear Poppy say Fairleigh Dickinson.
Moorhead State. The Eagles. Longwood University. The Lancers. Oral Roberts. The Golden Eagles. South Carolina. Cox. Liverpool, Man City. The rare tie where both teams feel like they won. No country in America, or no county in America, excuse me, loves a guy named Mac Jones more than Duval County.
Isn't that the truth?
He'll fit right in there.
They will. They love their Macs there.
He's not the only one.
No, surrounded by Macs and Joneses for that matter.
The B in Baker Mayfield stands for Back Up the Brinks Truck. Caitlin Clark, volume shooter. Spring ahead, fall back. How about we just stay put?
Because of Marco Rubio.
I'm tired of all of it. Whoever came up with the concept of daylight saving time has a special place in hell. Speaking of hell, our Bryles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
I saw the other day, Stugotz, I'm going to assume that it's true, although I do occasionally get ball-sacked in this area because I will read a quote that sounds like it could be true, said by somebody who shouldn't be saying such a thing but would say such a thing, and then I get fooled because somebody has done the thing that people like to do on the internet where they fool people like me. But Lance Stevenson was quoted as saying his favorite player in the league is Anthony Edwards because Anthony Edwards reminds Lance Stevenson of Lance Stevenson. So Lance Stevenson is saying that the guy who reminds him of him is the best player of the league, one of the best players in the league, future face of the league, all that stuff. But Lance Stevenson...
Good to see he hasn't changed.
That's right.
Yes.
And it is good. It is good to see that he hasn't changed because when I saw the name Lance Stevenson, I found myself craving for something I believe, more than even the movie star in Hollywood, is unfortunately disappearing in sports, which is just somebody who's totally willing to be the villain. Now, I'm going to put aside the fighting sports, the combat sports, because they just use their mouths to sell and to market and always have a bad guy somewhere because that's part of the business strategy. But when I ask you, because I'm about to nominate somebody here based on this weekend's happenings in sports. When I ask you guys, who is the biggest villain going right now in sports, who are you going with all across sports? Obviously, Draymond is an obviously outspoken, obviously comfortable with dislike. But I have another nominee for you if you guys don't have anyone that you think is in that category.
I had Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
villain?
But that's...
Are you talking on field
I'm
only?
talking about embracing the role personality-wise. I'm not talking about criminal behavior.
He's talking about Lance Stevenson.
I'm talking about almost somebody who's proudly criminal.
Yes.
Like somebody who would be...
Dylan Brooks is
John
one of
Morant.
those.
Villain Brooks.
Let's remove criminal from the description if we can.
Okay.
On-court, on-field criminality.
Yes, let's eliminate criminal. But no, Jessica said it, and here is Kim Mulkey talking about the fight this weekend. If you're aspiring to villainy, this is
fight.
I'm
Dust
sorry,
up?
kerfuffle, which is also a way I would describe.
Fracas.
I would describe her outfit as a bit kerfuffly, both in demeanor and in outfit. She goes for villain, and in press conference as well. So listen to what she has to say.
No one wants to be a part of that. No one wants to see that ugliness. But I can tell you this. I wish she would have pushed Angel Reese. Don't push a kid. You 6'8", don't push somebody that little. That was uncalled for, in my opinion. Let those two girls that were jawing, let them go at it.
Pick on someone your own size.
Such a weird take. And compared to Don Staley's comments, both in the post-game press conference and her post-game interview, everything she said since the end of that game, this is so strange for Kim Mulkey to be like criticizing who picked on who and not just overall like, yeah, we probably should have, kept our cool and tried to win the game.
That's how most people would do it. It's not how a villain would do it.
Exactly
it's not
right.
someone who cares not a lick what you think about anything.
You want to try us? Try on her for size.
Well, I don't know that in coaching there's anyone doing villainy better than Kim Mulkey is in positions of leadership in sport, not caring at all what you think about anything, because you also have to have here, this is important, right? In the business of sports, you have to have the resume to have the confidence to not care what your bosses think, what people in power who you respect think. You are so powerful. You have to be have so much conviction about being an asshole that you can do it liberally without worrying what anybody calls you. You have to have great confidence to be able to do it.
So Bobby Knight, is that your description?
I mean,
of who
Bobby
a
Knight
villain
was a
would be?
great villain, but look at all of Kim Mulkey here on the screen and tell me that couldn't appear in a movie of some sort as a supervillain just on appearances, just what she's going for on appearances. Like, if I tell you that person is evil and tell you nothing else about that person, just look at her, ask, and is that evil? From the eye sockets to the soul.
Evil or not evil, I like that.
I'm not with you on that. I think she's doing the best she can. I don't think that she's trying to be evil physically.
I'm talking about
dresses nicely. She's a
cartoon
coach.
supervillain. I'm talking about the cartoonish,
the 101 Dalmatian woman. Glenn Close played her. Griselda.
I just said that back here. Yeah, Cruella DeVille.
Griselda? Is that a Wizard of Oz character?
I think Griselda is a drug lord that killed many people.
Same thing.
Villain.
Close.
Also,
Allegedly. Tomato.
But we were keeping criminals out of this. Billy rules with an iron fist.
No
and he
criminals.
Told us,
well, no, I just don't want to call people criminals for the
Unless
sake of
they
calling
are.
them. Well, yeah, if they are.
So
but
Griselda, criminal.
allegedly.
But playing the villain role is what Dan is talking about. Like Dennis Rodman played the villain role. He played it well.
It's not easy to do. I imagine, Stugotz, if we spent some time like really in the introspective places where Draymond Green goes to therapy and finds himself as a confrontation seeker, I'm guessing that is not always something that he feels strongly about, that there are doubts involved with the darkness that it welcomes into your life to constantly be welcoming a fight with everyone. That would be like I don't know if Kim Mulkey has a great deal of remorse in anything she says or does, but it seems like she welcomes conflict. And I don't know how many people you know in your life as a personality trait that welcome conflict. Samson is one of them.
Sitting across from one.
But I would argue, though, that Samson has endured conflict since he was a child, so he's become more comfortable with conflict.
He feels alive when he's in conflict. I mean, is that fair, David?
What's
it makes you
fair
feel alive.
It is my love language.
I think I need to self-fine for confusing Griselda with Galinda. Oh, yeah. That's where the names were mixing me up.
But neither of them was Griselda, though.
I meant to say Glinda, which is the witch.
You merged them?
Elphaba's the
And
bad one.
I merged them all.
And none of those are Cruella, which is who we were talking about.
Exactly.
Merge that too.
So I think maybe the fines cancel out.
I'd be willing to nominate right now. Any objections? Behind Draymond, Kim Mulkey, the greatest villain going right now in sports. No close third place.
I object.
With?
Time's up.
Embarrassed that he has petered out here and petered out at the end of the last segment specifically, where he was confused by both the clock and the last 36 hours of what have been a very draining experience for the entirety of our show. David Sampson has now produced a top 5 list with some preparation to combat what I am saying, that I'm willing to nominate Kim Mulkey and put her second on most villainous people in sports, and I'm making the qualifier of a person who embraces that role of villainy. Not just that they're disliked, but they're disliked and they seem to purposely do a bunch of trolling things. This changes your list. They do trolling things to embrace the professional wrestling heel character. We'll get to David's list in a second, but I want to reveal to the shipping container the conversation that I was just having in here with David and with Stugotz, and the illumination that came to me, I'm going to say about 90 seconds too late in what was an argument with David and Stugotz. Matthew Coca came in, the excellent producer for Nothing Personal. I will again tell the audience, as I do almost every time David's around us, that Nothing Personal is covering different ground than just about anyone in sports, and you should check it out every morning, weekdays, DraftKings Network, and our YouTube channel. But before I get to villains and what Coca said, because Coca was surprised by how tall I am, and I get this a lot because there's something about television that sitting next to my father or whatever it is that was happening, that people think that I'm smaller than 6 feet tall. And so what I get a lot is, you're taller than that. And Samson was saying, I get a lot. People say to me, you're a lot shorter than I thought you were.
People aren't going to say they're taller than he thought.
That is correct. They're not going to probably say that to David Sampson. But Sampson I'm surprised they're saying out loud to him, you're a lot shorter than I thought, because it feels like you're leading with an insult there. I don't take you're taller than I thought as an insult.
It's a compliment?
Well, it's not necessarily a compliment.
Makes you feel good, though.
It's not negative. I'm not going to say.
That's how I feel about when people say you're shorter than I thought you were. I don't view that as negative.
That feels to me like it can be insulting if you're insecure about your height. And so both Stugotz and Samson were saying to me, that's not insulting. And it took me about 90 seconds to realize that I'm dealing with two very confident short people.
Short kings.
I wasn't even.
There aren't many out there.
I wasn't realizing as it was happening. I'm pretty sure that short is considered more negative than tall when talking about people. But I wasn't, in the company that I was keeping, being met that way. Both of them seemed confused by what I was saying, and both of them were telling me that I was wrong.
Well, I think the comment can be spun as a positive for them, right? Like, so if you're viewing short as like a negative, they're saying like, well, you give off all of this confidence of someone who is not the height that you are, right? Like, I'll have the same thing happen to me sometimes when we have like show events or whatever. They're like, oh, you're a lot taller than I thought. And I'm like, well, what is that supposed to mean? Like,
so you don't take that as an automatic compliment?
Well, I take it as just like a comment, right? Like, I don't really understand what it adds, I guess. And it's not insulting to the people that say it. It's just like, I don't know what to do with that information. It's like, do I give off not someone who is very confident and strapping, someone with swagger that's very tall? Because that's how I take it, is they don't think that that's who I am.
So people in show business are generally shorter than you think. And that's why I'm used to
Tom Cruise.
Very short.
Yes.
So I
Poor men, honestly. You guys just have so much to worry about and think
That's exactly what this
It's hard
is.
being a man, yeah.
No, but what Dan is saying is
I'm a little sincere.
Me and David don't worry about anything. I mean,
well, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is you're shorter than I thought you were an insult? Yes or no?
I do think this actually genuinely does stem back to toxic masculinity and the patriarchy, in that giving off confidence implicitly makes people believe you're taller, where giving off a bit of
careful,
giving off a bit of
meekness,
sincerity, comfort in emotions might give off more of an average height.
You guys have to obsess over your heights, your wee size,
your chin.
Ugh.
It's awful.
Yeah.
God, must suck.
I don't obsess over any of that stuff, actually.
Same.
What do you obsess over?
Sure.
I obsess over cleanliness, over timeliness.
A giant
over
statue in left field
inefficiencies.
would have said differently, David.
Those things.
As a
drive me
very
crazy.
emotionally adjusted man, I think we should all follow your lead.
Billy, do you think that it's when you say what does that person mean by that when they think you're taller than you are you doing it from the place of that could be insulting if this person is thinking that I'm too meek to be this tall?
Yeah.
You think they're looking at you as someone, so you're taking you're taller than I thought you were as kind of insulting if they're looking at you and saying you give off the confidence of a shorter person.
Well, I mean, the majority of people think that I'm this weak idiot. So when they see me in person, they're like, oh, hello, you're a human.
So people assume tall means smart?
No, they still think I'm an
Confident.
idiot. Yeah, no, they still think I'm an idiot.
Meet Gil.
I'm feeling the fallout from saying
we did that
earlier,
already. We did that 3 weeks ago. We already
brought it back.
We already did the Meet Gil joke.
That was a celebration as though it was a new joke.
Was
he
great.
thought it was. Yeah. I'm feeling the fallout because the podcast has now come out of saying earlier that my daughters are idiots, and I didn't think anyone would hear that.
We can't all have daughters that win the Meadowlark Lifetime Achievement Oscar Award like my daughter Willow did last night. By the way, speaking of little guys, look at this little guy. He's so cute.
To give the context to Billy, he loves his daughters, obviously. But
Thank you, Dan.
2-month-old
Saved it.
2-month-old and an 8-month-old don't have a whole lot
They're
of
not 2 months and 8 months.
intellect going on. Well, this is what he was.
Well,
this,
2
this-
years and 8 months.
But
Yeah.
I'm
Same
sorry. There was but earlier. Forgive me because I thought we said 2 months and 8 months. I know you're
It's okay.
older than that,
It
but
doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it.
Mathematically, that'd
but
be
I,
Well,
but
it's
I,
almost
it
impossible.
doesn't.
If
Maybe
Woody
half
were here,
siblings
he
or-
would explain why.
But I think it is more dangerous. I had not actually done the tabulations and the math and the numbers in my head to actually think, wait a minute, his daughter is older than 2 months old. But I was doing 2 months old and 8 months old. Those are not smart human
They can't even
beings.
drive. What can they do? They can't write their names. They can't do anything.
2-year-old to call a 2-year-old an idiot is aggressive. I think people would be less mad at calling a 2-year-old a 2-month-old an idiot than
It
a
was a
2-year-old.
Lighten up, people. Gosh.
What's happened?
We've come a long way as a country. You can't even call 2-year-olds idiots anymore.
It's
Jeez.
your 2-year-old.
They can't even drive.
That's what I just said.
I think people's issue is that they're your children.
Yeah.
Not that they've never seen an idiotic 2-year-old.
Well,
it's that you shouldn't
That's
describe
the
your
only
own.
kind.
The issue is it's my father and it's his granddaughters. That was the main issue. And he said, don't call my
that's who
granddaughters
listens
idiots.
to this
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah. He said, don't do that ever again. They were so smart, we let them vote.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. If 2-year-olds were so smart, would we let them vote?
Could you imagine if that's what the election came down to?
Kind of feels
Pandering
like it's going to
2-year-olds?
anyways. No, it kind of feels like that's what we're doing anyways. Is it not what it's going to come
It
down
would just
to?
add to the number of people who don't vote.
What does your top 5 list look like, and what have you crossed off your list? What are the corrections you've made? What is the
I
list?
crossed Derek Jeter off.
A villain? Derek Jeter's not a villain.
Oh, he is to David.
But he's not,
No,
that's not a
you
villain.
said that you need someone who views themselves as such.
He took
That
your
was
bathroom.
the criteria.
Derek Jeter is not a villain under any circumstances. If we were to throw it to
Ask
the
Boston.
audience, not even Boston.
Oh, come on.
No,
Number 5.
wait a minute. You
What?
put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Does Boston think Derek Jeter is a villain? Like I feel like I'm talking to two-year-olds.
That's completely
insane. Do you guys not know what villain he is? Like, what are you talking
Maybe not.
about?
Yeah, me and David don't know what a villain is.
But I mean, you think that there are only 100 names I could give you that Boston would think of as more like Derek Jeter prided himself on not being in any circumstances
That's the joke
thought
of it.
by anyone a villain.
Well, so did A-Rod, but
Well, wait, do you have a
Real
camera over
villain.
my shoulder?
A-Rod's on your list too?
You're not. Hold on. We are going to have a lot of disagreements about this list.
A-Rod cares deeply how people receive him. A villain does not.
I think villains are largely insecure.
For
We're
sure.
going to really get to the bottom of it.
A-Rod is one of the most insecure people you will ever meet. A-Rod is considered a villain around sports, around business, around. So.
But you can't want to be liked and be a villain. You can't crave being liked and accept your role as a villain.
He's talking about your willingness to be a villain and sink into being a villain.
But do you think that's where I am then? Do you think that's where I live in that universe?
You're okay
That
with
you-
it. You're fine with it. You're more fine with it than either A-Rod and Jeter are. You're more fine with negative public relations than either of those human beings are. Yes.
How about Bill Belichick?
He doesn't care one way or the other how he's
so he
received.
can't even
but
be on
he
the
doesn't
list.
do things that are actively what Mulkey is doing. Like Mulkey is looking for confrontation. Mulkey almost seeks being booed.
David, Charles Oakley was a villain. You like the Knicks. That guy was a villain and sunk into being a villain. He did.
But not with his speech. Maybe with his play, but not
with his play. Yes.
Not with his person.
Patrick Mahomes.
No. No.
Okay, now I have to disagree.
I don't
with
understand
you.
what this
just,
list
but
is.
just give us your list.
No, I don't have a list anymore.
Skip
that
Bayless.
that was your list.
Right.
Jim Harbaugh.
All right, I'll agree with you.
I'll agree with you there.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Mahomes.
He just had a quote during the playoffs. I love being the villain. I love when people want to come at me.
He's not a villain. Patrick Mahomes is one of the most universally beloved athletes there are in America.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Good one, actually.
Does that not count?
L. Ron Hubbard.
No.
I mean, he's right.
I have a different understanding.
What is
I need more time.
Look,
so bad at this.
All right, David, I'm going to
Just take the L,
I'm
David.
going to kick David out for the rest of the show.
Wow.
He is spent. He's got nothing left in the tank. He's delirious. He's demented.
People hate L. Ron Hubbard.
I understand. I understand that they.
He's not in sports.
But he's not in sports. Like I was asking you about in sports next to Kim Mulkey. Like L. Ron Hubbard.
That's all I got.
Dianetics.
Get out! I'm going to throw a theory at the room here on what just happened to David Sampson. I have kicked him out permanently.
Really?
For the day.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's not permanent.
No,
but
just
for the day.
Right.
It's permanent today anyway. And I've kicked him out because I really do believe, Stugotz, that he has lapsed into delirium because of what the last few days have been like. He did a morning show by himself today after doing 7 hours yesterday. And I'm guessing most of the people listening to this who have real and arduous jobs do not understand why it is, for example, that Howard Stern has a show that he does 3 hours a day and then gets like 3 or 4 months of vacation, but he's working just 3 or 4 hours a day. How can that possibly be that tiring? And yet, when you look all over the entertainment landscape, whether it's column writing 30 years ago and they asked you to write 4 columns a week, or the way they ask you to do shows now, which is do a show for an hour a day or 3 hours a day, but it's just that. My guess is that most people listening to that don't think it's tiring, don't think it's taxing, don't think it's anything other than totally silly, and no one should get tired from that. As Travis Kelce says, podcasting is the hardest job in the world, which seems just ridiculous.
He plays football.
When he said that, I'm like, what are you talking about?
He's right.
You can do this as well as we can do it. Imagine us trying to do that as well as you do it. Like, what in God's name are you talking about? But I do believe what's happened to David Sampson is because he's a total stamina weirdo, Stugotz.
Yep.
7 continents in 7 days, running 7 marathons.
Mm-hmm.
That's not... Your pain threshold is through the roof when you can do that. Your need for rest is through the roof when you can do something like that.
Yes. And doing that was easier than what he did the last 36 hours.
Well, I don't know if it's I would not say that, but I would say that his judgment was better at the end of that than it was in that last segment, because it couldn't have been worse than it was in that last segment.
L. Ron Hubbard.
I mean, he's not even speaking the same language that we are.
L. Ron Hubbard.
It doesn't make any sense to me. That was after time for prep. I want to remind you what the segment before that ended, like where he got confused by the clock, and then he says, I object, and I'm like, on what grounds? And he's like, I've got nothing else here.
In David's defense, you started taking away all of his villains. He was naming all these people he thought were villains, and then you're like, no, that guy's not a villain. That's not a villain.
Villains.
Well, they were terrible villains. I'm not defending that. They were terrible villains.
That was the list that came with preparation.
It did.
He could give me nothing.
I don't know why I tried to give in David's defense. I never do that. Sorry. Out of character for me.
You guys should be propping him
Receding
up.
back.
Yeah.
Penalty box for you.
Just a yes and, one of those.
Because he's so good at that.
That kind of thing.
But it seems like Dan is defending him as well, because
It
he's
does
saying
not
that
seem like
I'm
that.
not.
Are
I'm
you
not. I
listening
cannot.
you're
at all?
saying it's very difficult to do this. Like if you do it for 36 consecutive hours, Dan, you're going to start to get hazy. You're going to start to have poor judgment. And that's what happened to David.
I am not defending
I am.
what happened with David Sampson. I am explaining how nonsense gibberish someone I keep telling is very good at this how much nonsense gibberish he produced that didn't make any sense. I'm trying to explain it because what he gave me the last couple of segments was an uncommon kind of useless. And so I'm trying to understand it because we're paying for this time and we have run him into the ground the last couple of days because what they did yesterday, 7 straight hours, the reason Chris Cody and Mike are not around today and other people and Roy are not around today. I don't know how Jessica, I don't know how you got stuck with having to do this with me.
The reason they're not around is laziness, Dan.
No,
we showed up here.
No, this was scheduled this way to give them.
What do you mean?
Whoa, that's a peek behind the curtain. You're not supposed to give Dan Le Batard.
Listen, I love Chris Cody. I did a Sunday night watch along, Sunday Night Football. Billy did it as well. We were here at 8 a.m. sharp, ready to go. I mean, I wasn't sharp, but I was here at 8 a.m.
Not sharp. You were here and not sharp, as I recall. I know what you guys feel like and look like on Mondays after you've done God Bless Football.
Take back the sharp.
Sharp, you need to take back the sharp.
But I was here, man.
I was told I'm sitting in this chair today because Chris had to do Adnan's recap. And then Adnan was here
The
today.
plot thickens.
Which was odd.
Just like the tushy on this little mini Oscar. Look at this guy. He's got
Caked
quite
up.
a little, his butt cheeks are.
Jessica, why do you keep waving that thing around as if it's supposed to mean something to anybody?
It's a
here?
Lifetime Achievement Award.
It's nice.
I need to
Shorter
check
than I thought
the
he'd be.
score on the Can You Beat David and Adnan game because I think I might have beaten them. I was 9 for 9 at one point last
Really?
night. I was knocking my picks out of the park. I need to go back and check that.
But then you
because-
stopped knocking them out of
Well, then I
park.
went home. And then I fell asleep, and now I need to go back. But I don't know. Someone on the video team, tell me if I won.
Last night there
Do the math
were there were more than almost 6,000 people were in this contest. I meant to ask David before he left what the prize was.
He doesn't remember.
His memorabilia is really good, though. People would want what he's giving
Josh
away.
Johnson autographed baseball or something.
Yeah, well, the problem with what he was doing is he wouldn't say what it was, and I wasn't clear on why it is he wouldn't tell people what it is that they were playing for from his memorabilia collection, because there's a lot of stuff in there that is super valuable, and only 3 people. Let me see if I have these numbers right. Only 3 people got everything right. Nobody got everything right, but 3 people got all but one thing right, and only 49 people out of nearly 6,000 did as well as David Sampson correctly predicting this stuff. So I'm not going to claim nefarious accounting. I wouldn't make that claim. It seems like he got a ton right, and that
Certainly not of David Sampson.
Well, he's good. What's funny is that you can accuse him usually of nefarious accounting, but in this instance, I believe he created this entire contest because he knows how good he is at it, and he often gets these things right. I wanted to ask you something, though, about the viral video this weekend, Stugotz, of LeBron at the end of his career, the oldest player in basketball, being fawned over by ownership. I will remind people again, as I often do with the Lakers, they think of the Lakers as a big brand. It's a family brand. The Lakers are a family business in a way that very rarely in professional sports does the owner of your team not have other giant interests that make tons of money.
Right.
So Jeannie Buss has to be wildly grateful to LeBron James for making the post-Kobe years economically friendly because he's LeBron James and because she has him in a salary-capped league at an underpaid price because of the economy he brings with him. And the reason I want to bring it up is only because of this. I saw a video over the weekend of a guy just watching 90s basketball, and it was Michael Jordan against Patrick Ewing. And as you watched it, it all ages very poorly, and it all looks like garbage.
Except for Michael.
No,
of course, right?
everything.
Stop it.
No, everything looks bad. But this person kept calling Patrick Ewing again and again trash because it's bad basketball compared to what it is that you're used to watching today. But I was juxtaposing that and the ending for Michael Jordan of his career, because I remember this clearly. Abe Pollin was a shitty owner, but he got the last of Michael Jordan with the Wizards, and at the end of his basketball career, Michael Jordan was an employee. and a disgraced one, leaving the building with no power. And I'm putting that next to what LeBron James has done over the last 15 years so that he can be in this position at the end of his career where he's going to segue from whatever he's doing here, and he wants another 3-year contract that's going to be in the $100 million range as the oldest player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to go out the way Michael Jordan did at the end, because I remember feeling offended on behalf of Michael Jordan that the Washington Wizards had mismanaged everything so poorly over the previous 20 years that they made him feel like an employee at the end of everything he had done for basketball.
Right.
And this is what I'm watching when I watch this video with LeBron James being fawned over by the owner of the Lakers, like felt up, touched by the women around him in a way that feels like just hugely affectionate. It feels different to me than how Michael Jordan's career ended. And you understand how LeBron has changed so much of what that sport is and what people like him have in terms of power so that it could look like that at the end. Because what age, can you look it up? I'm pretty sure it's at whatever age LeBron is now that Michael Jordan had to suffer the indignity, Stugotz. The indignity.
Right.
When you're Michael Jordan.
Of playing for the Wizards?
Not even of playing for the Wizards. Of being rejected at the end by the Wizards and being told that he has no actual power and just sort of run out of the building without options, without GM control, without any control over what happened to him at the end. I would just say to you, I know many people in our audience are plenty fed up with me talking about player empowerment, but when I tell you a place that LeBron James, you will get no argument from anybody, will be better than Michael Jordan, is on the ending. He'll get the ending better than Michael Jordan got the ending.
Well, Michael had several different endings, so he nailed the Bulls ending. I mean, he did.
No, you got one ending.
I mean, he pushed off on Byron Russell. He hit a jumper. He won his 6th title.
That's the second ending.
Yeah.
That's the second ending. That's
right,
not
he messed
the
up
first.
the first ending.
Well, if LeBron screws up his first one, then we can offer him a couple more, right?
Yes.
Tom Brady messed up his first ending, didn't he?
I think you only get one ending. I think you.
No.
No.
That's not how it works.
Okay, I appreciate this argument. I think we should do that show where it's an argument show where I say a thing and you guys just make that sound. But I think you only get one ending. I mean, by definition.
On his Wikipedia page, it says the final retirement. He got multiple endings.
But there's one actual ending to your playing career. The other two didn't end up being endings. They were endings at the time.
Interesting that The Last Dance wasn't the ending.
It's his ending, though.
Yeah, but it's his last dance.
But he chose it.
The Last Dance was also not about his last dance. Yes, he got a lot of final things and a lot of lasts and a lot of endings that weren't the actual ending.
I feel like he's got a couple more in him. Not one, not two.
He took. I didn't realize this because I'm trying to find his age when he took over the Wizards.
He was 38.
He took like 2 years off though before he went back. Right?
Oh yeah, he at 35, 36, 37. He didn't play. Then came back at 38
and played till 40.
And played 38 and 39. I guess he might have turned 40 that season. But what's crazy?
He averaged 22 a game.
He played all 82 games. He came off the bench for several of those. Michael Jordan coming off the bench?
Well, that's what
LeBron will never come off the bench.
No, he's going to stick the landing.
LeBron will never come off the bench.
He's going to stick the landing with his son.
I believe, Stugotz, that you'll be offended by this, but Jeremy, as a child, saw Michael Jordan play for the Wizards, and as a child, left the arena saying, that's a bad basketball player.
That's unfair. That's unfair.
Bad basketball player. I was underwhelmed in that I was 8 years old, and everyone in the world had told me Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player you ever have seen, ever will see, all of that.
Yep.
I showed up to the game, and he was something like, 9 for 40.
Right.
Well, you were an 8-year-old. What the hell do you know?
And he was 40.
He was 40 years old. Look, it just wasn't the Michael Jordan I was anticipating seeing. Disappointing.
Jeremy was charting efficiencies as an 8-year-old.
You know me.
It's like 13 for 39.
Jeremy's never charted efficiency.
Jeremy was doing the halftime performance.
Actually, I did sing the national anthem when I was 8 years old at a Heat game.
Shut
but
up.
Not
That is
alone.
the least surprising thing
I was
I've
part
ever
of the
heard.
University School Sensations.
Oh my God, the sun. What is the Sunsations?
We were the Suns, so instead of Sensations, we were the Sunsations.
No, I get the wordplay, but what was it?
It was like a little singing group for,
For
all the little
for
future
dumb little
gleeks.
babies?
Yeah, for dumb little babies.
Oh, future gleeks.
Did you, speaking of age, I don't know if you guys know this, but Stephon Diggs is the oldest member of the Bills offense at 30 years old. Stephon Diggs, that is a young offense, an unusually young offense. And when it comes to keeping these parts together, Stugotz, I don't know what's been reported most recently. I was a bit surprised when the Kansas City Chiefs, when I read in general, and this is the finances of the sport, I told you last year that even although they have McDuffie, that I haven't seen a whole lot of people play corner better than L'Jarius Sneed played it for the Chiefs last year. And there have been conflicting reports on whether or not what it'll take to get him is a second-round pick or a first-round pick. But he's available, and because of the finances of stuff. We were talking earlier in the show, and I was saying that Chris Jones might not be as important as Patrick Mahomes, but is in the realm of, for that team, being hugely important. And you can argue, I think, after the last 2 years, more important than Tyreek Hill was.
No doubt, yes.
To the Chiefs, just in terms of what the results ended up being, not necessarily the offense, but the Chiefs are now being depleted by dollars, and Chris Jones is not somewhere that they're willing to save money, but L'Jarius Sneed is. That I've heard all offseason that he is available. Some people, in talking about the Dolphins, have created the scenario where you trade Jalen Waddle for Sneed because you're losing Xavier Howard, and you want something opposite Jalen Ramsey that is, overwhelming. But the finances of the sport make it so nobody in Kansas City is confused about why L'Jarius Sneed is available. He's available because they had to pay their quarterback, and they've got to pay Chris Jones, and they've got to pay all sorts of people.
They have to prioritize.
And they've got a very young defense. The defense that just won them the championship, I'm tying it to the Bills. That Bills offense is exceptional. I don't know if Stephon Diggs has aged out at 30, but he didn't look very good at the end of last year. People were talking all of last year about how he's not happy there. Everything with Josh Allen changed with Buffalo when Stephon Diggs got there. And now, at 30 years old, he's the oldest member of an offense that is very good. And the Chiefs' defense is also one of the youngest defenses to ever win a championship. Yes. And now they're going to start losing some of those pieces.
Is that offense very good, or is Josh Allen very good?
It's a good question.
Because we talk all the time about how he doesn't have many pieces beyond Stephon Diggs.
Right. But isn't it the same thing? Once I make your quarterback good, haven't I made your offense good? Does it even matter?
Ask the USC Trojans football team last
their
season.
offense was good.
Caleb Williams was good.
But if you have a good quarterback, you have a good offense.
If we think your quarterback is good, generally the offense is good. In fact, that's one of the things that makes it for Russell Wilson is available now. Because, wait a minute, Denver was constipated all season. I'm used to Russell Wilson. At the end of the games, he's in the games and he's driving up and down the field. It's not this 4 yards at a time crap, and he can't get out of the pocket. As soon as Denver's offense became bad, we think Russell Wilson's no longer a good quarterback. Like, that's how that one happened.
Especially because we thought, at the very least, that the Broncos had great weapons as he was going there. You saw guys like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy.
We thought it was a good
everybody's
fit.
eyes were wide open.
Yes.
I think there's a difference, though, between your quarterback is good and your offense is good. Yeah. Like, I think an argument just in the AFC East can be made where people will say the Dolphins' offense is good, and there's still questions as to, is Tua good?
That's fair.
But I don't think there are any questions. If our audience is in consensus agreement, a quarterback is good, that we're then going to say that offense isn't. Because there would be no evidence of the quarterback being good if the offense isn't.
But you can have quarterbacks that have bad offenses that you still say are good. Like, are the Jaguars good? Is their offense good? Because people will still say that Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback.
I don't know if Trevor's good.
People are questioning Trevor Lawrence is good because
Billy has been.
Because
I feel like your offense is good if your quarterback can have an average game, but you can still win with your offense. I think that's like the differentiation. Like, I think good offenses, or I guess good quarterbacks
do just
make
enough.
An offense look better oftentimes.
Right.
And sometimes when you rely on one player to win you a game and they aren't able to do that for whatever reason.
How about the Chargers?
It exposes you.
Good offense, though, Billy. No?
Their defense was terrible. They lost last year because of their defense. I know you questioned Justin Herbert. I'm not talking about winning and losing here. I think you guys might be able to hit me with a couple of outliers on this, but I don't think you're going to be able to consistently do it. If I ask you any quarterback's name and I say, is that a good quarterback? And you say yes, you're then going to give me a good offense.
Let's play this game. We have 5 minutes left.
That's fair.
You're going to give me a good offense on any
good game.
Because Billy, are you questioning whether the Chargers' offense was good? Like I'm saying, statistically, you can have some questions about what the Chargers were, but they've been playoff relevant because their offense is good. And I thought the failure of that team last year is they had one of the worst defenses in the league.
I think you can have a good quarterback that masks an offense, and you assume it's a good offense because of how good the quarterback is, but that doesn't mean they're a good offense.
Can I ask you about the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy,
Okay,
sir?
no, but you're doing it the other way. That's a good offense, and you're still questioning the quarterback. That's not what I'm doing.
So you're saying
I'm saying I know
good
the
quarterback,
quarterback
the
is
offense
good.
is automatically good. This is sort of like how a rhombus isn't a square, but a square is a rhombus.
It's nothing like that.
Exactly,
It's not like that.
How about the Lions, Jared Goff?
Both are good.
Do we know if Goff is good?
Again,
So you're looking for the definite good quarterback.
You guys need to
and
stop playing this
automatically-
game differently than I
This
am.
is fun.
It's a little twisty. You're
having fun.
No, it is not. There's nothing twisty about what I'm doing.
It's like when something comes out with a hint of lime. That's what we're doing.
Okay. This is why.
Same
So
product, but a
CJ
hint
Stroud
of
is
lime.
good.
Yeah,
is
he's
the
good.
Texans' offense good?
Yes.
I don't know. Good question.
Yes.
Let's cut to the chase.
But
and
is it
text me
because
now.
of CJ Stroud, or we don't know?
The Texans' offense is good. Stugotz continues to play a different game. This is the theme for today. It's how L. Ron Hubbard made an appearance out of nowhere. Play a different game than the one Dan is playing. When I say if the quarterback is good, then the offense is good, and then you come back with Jared Goff, I'm not sure he's good.
Right.
You're playing a different game than I am.
A little twist to your game.
How about
is what
the
I said.
Ravens?
I've acknowledged that.
Their quarterback is good and their offense
Does their
is
offensive
good.
coordinator count as their offense? That's part of the equation.
Offense is good in the
They were the
regular
fourth highest
season.
scoring offense in the league.
All right, I'm going to do it another
Not
way.
They had
against the
10
Chiefs.
points against the Chiefs.
Exactly right.
Do you blame the offensive
All-time great
coordinator or the
defense.
offense, though? Because if he's part of the offense, then I would say offense, some weaknesses there.
I'm going to do it another way. Because
A third way.
I told you guys,
Another
yes,
twist.
like the number of Michael Jordan endings that there were, 3 of them, even though there was only one.
Now you get it. There's more
Yeah,
than one ending.
now I get it. Yes. I will never get you, Billy. I will go the rest of my life without getting.
I've accepted that.
Yeah, so have I. That's what you hear in my voice is defeat.
Wow.
The question I will now place in front of all of you is not even multiple outliers. Give me one quarterback right now playing that is good that I can say his offense isn't.
The Chiefs.
Bingo.
Patrick Mahomes.
That's a good one.
Checkmate.
I mean,
Do we know Patrick Mahomes is good, though?
Oh, yes.
Do we know he's a villain? Do we know if he's a villain?
That's
He's
up for
so
debate.
not
That
a
is
was a
such a
weird
weird
villain.
take.
Yeah.
Why would Patrick Mahomes be? I know people hate when someone becomes good enough to win, but I don't think he's a villain.
That's why he thought Derek Jeter was a villain, because he was winning all the time, and so there's people that didn't like him.
But
There's
also
a
he was
difference
on the
between being
Yankees. That's,
disliked.
I think,
the
automatic
Yankees are
villain
the villain.
status if you're on the Yankees.
The Chiefs wanted to be viewed as villains this past Super Bowl. Like when we were at like media night and all this stuff, like
They
they were
embraced
trying
that,
to ham
yes.
it up and like,
Right.
well, they embraced something that they gave themselves. They were trying to make themselves the villains, I think.
And like overcoming adversity,
Oh, please.
that whole storyline. Like every team creates that narrative in their head, I think.
just back to Snead for a second. There is a scenario where the Chiefs can keep him. They have tagged him. They don't want to go in without him having a contract into this season. They would have to clear like $76 million in cap space, which, according to Adam Schefter, he's saying that they can do that fairly easily if they want to commit him to a long-term deal. So,
But all of those decisions, you have to make cuts that hurt all over the place, and that team
Correct, yes.
has been diluted, but is still good enough to win the championship. I want to circle back around on what Jeremy is saying, though, because I know the Yankees have a historic villainy about them.
You're not talking about the square rhombus thing?
No, I would like to never talk about that again.
Can we talk about Jeremy throwing up before he sang the national anthem at the Heat game?
I
'Cause
did.
He was nervous.
No, I thought I was nervous, but I actually had a fever. I was a little baby.
Little baby Jeremy puking all over.
It was disgusting.
Little baby
Triple
Jeremy
A.
thinking Michael Jordan stinks as a basketball player.
It's terrible. I feel
It's
bad
the
for
only
you.
information that he had.
Saw Shaq and Kobe. They were great.
You're bringing in ancestral villainy to the Yankees. I don't believe they're actually villainous anymore. Like that. You're
Well, that's because no one cares about baseball.
You're
unfortunately.
grandfathering it in, though. No, and because they haven't been that good, and they don't have players you dislike. You need to have some hateable things. Why are you still waving around that lifetime shit statue, Jessica?
just wanted to hold it.
Have you
It's
never
cute.
won a trophy before? Like you're
a little
obsessed
bit.
with this.
Oh my God, but it's so cute. Willow's totally gonna eat this.